Good afternoon. Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your #1 source for all political events as we get into what's a big 2026 midterm. It's always a pleasure to be with you. I'm Robert McNeely as President Trump set to address a GOP conference at 4:35, and we might be hearing from the president later today directly from his Doral Club down in Miami, Florida, where he's been the last few days. And of course, over the weekend, that dignified transfer of those we have lost in Iran. So far, by the count of it, 7 United States military officials ever since this engagement, this war, whatever you'd like to title it as, this military operation led by the United States and also Israel since Saturday of last week. So roughly 9 days into this conflict, we're keeping a steady watch on it very closely to see if this land and air campaign can really solve the ultimate problem in the Middle East, which is clearly the Iranian government. Of course, the Ayatollah replaced by, as the new supreme leader, the son of Mr. Khamenei, who is now deceased in those early operations, where you had roughly 200 plus F-35s and Israeli air striking over 500 targets in the initial wave, followed by Tomahawks and ships in the Mediterranean Sea, the Arabian Sea, the Indian Ocean as well, an armada surrounding Iran as they've attacked other Arab nations over the course of the last few days. We are joined by an expert on all of these matters, Ali Reza Jafarzadeh, the Deputy Director of the National Council of Resistance of Iran. So good to see you, my friend, as we are roughly a week and a half into this. Where can we see this going, as you're an expert in Iranian affairs and the future of the Middle East?
Great to be with you, as always. First of all, certainly what we have seen in the past week or so is really the culmination of what's been happening over the past 4 decades in Iran. On the one hand, you have the Iran regime's terrorism, their weapons of mass destruction, their using of proxies around the world. On the other hand, inside Iran, the regime has been so repressive, killing its own population over the decades. I think most recently people saw how the regime resorted to killing thousands of innocent people just in January of this year. That's why inside Iran there is a genuine indigenous momentum shaped by the people of Iran over the years, who want to see an end to the rule of dictatorship in Iran. And that's why I think the real end game, the real element that will determine the future of the nation is actually what's happening inside the country. And that desire, no matter what the regime does, has not been extinguished. There is no way that it can be ended. The more the regime tries to kill people or deviate attention, the more people in Iran are getting determined to end the rule of the clerics. That's the real story.
And does this look something similar to what we saw in Tiananmen Square in 1989 China, with the uprising of the people leading to this ultimate removal? Because it seems as if with the Ayatollah, the supreme leaders, that one just gets replaced by the other, as we saw the sun taking over just over the course of the last few hours.
Well, actually, that's very interesting, because I think what we saw with the replacement of the supreme leader by his son, Mojtaba Khamenei, this is like, a hereditary monarchy, as was seen before, and just putting the son on the throne. This is not going to be accepted by the people of Iran. People have already rejected the entire theocracy ruling Iran. And this is a further proof that the viper will not give birth to a dove, because this is what comes out of this machinery of repression, a machinery of religious fascism ruling Iran. One Ayatollah, the son replacing the father, continuing the same path, continuing the same policies That's why I think, especially after the death of Khamenei and replacing him with his son, the world should realize, as the people of Iran have been convinced, that there's only one way to end the threat of the Iran regime, and that's ending the rule of clerics in Iran. And of course, that's the responsibility of the people of Iran and the organized resistance.
And Eli Reza, you mentioned that really 47 years in the making. So kind of a two-pronged issue here. You have America first, you have peace through strength. Some in the MAGA movement arguing that this is exactly what this is, this preemptive strike, because if we look towards Beirut, the killing of over 200 Marines back in 1983 during the Reagan administration, these proxies of the Houthis to other radical groups throughout the Middle East region, most recently being seen in the north of Israel, coming in from southern Lebanon to join in Hamas's fight against the Jewish people, dating back to October 7th of 2023. We've seen these dozen or so proxies attacking American and Israeli interests in the region, and now it's really on fire with ballistics hitting all different kind of Arab nations right now. Some would argue that this is not necessarily America's fight, but is this not responding to what has been 47 years of an onslaught coming from a radical government?
I think, everyone has pretty much tried everything else, trying to see how they can tame the behavior of the Iran regime. Predominantly, the policy of the West over the past decades has been the policy of appeasement. I remember when we first exposed the nuclear sites in Iran in August 2002, it was still in the preliminary stages. The world had a chance to end the nuclear weapons program of the regime. Instead, they rushed to negotiate, sit down, give concessions to the Iran regime. Pallets of cash were flown to Iran that only funded the terror operations of the Iran regime, but also strengthened the regime's repressive forces to kill the Iranian people themselves. However, I think the ultimate solution, when we talk about change from within, there is an organized force that has been fighting this regime for over 47 years. This organized force is actually headed by a woman, Mrs. Mariam Rajavi. She just announced last week the provisional government for the transitional period to transfer sovereignty from the repressive rulers of Iran to the elected representatives of the people of Iran. She promised free and fair elections within 6 months after the fall of the Ayatollahs that would lead to the formation of a national and constituent assembly that would draft a new constitution, appoint a new interim government, and basically the transfer to the elected representatives of the people of Iran. And in this period of 6 months, the country would be run based on her 10-point platform, which many describe it as a Jeffersonian platform that calls for separation of religion and state, ballot box being the sole criteria for legitimacy, freedom of the press, freedom of political parties, freedom of the religion, free market economy, peace in the Middle East, and a non-nuclear republic form of the government. And people should also realize that the organized force on the ground is very powerful, even though the regime wants to show that, they have all the missiles, they have the nuclear weapons program, they have these repressive forces, but they're rotten to the core. They're afraid of their own population. In addition to several rounds of major uprisings in Iran since 2017 in all 31 provinces, people chanting death to Khamenei, death to the dictator, death to the oppressor, be the Shah or the supreme leader, making it very clear that they're not going to go backwards to the dictatorship of the Shah. They're looking for future, for democracy and political pluralism. And the organized opposition is very powerful. Only 5 days before the international hostilities started in February, the main organized opposition inside Iran, known as the MEK, which is the same force that exposed all the major nuclear sites of Iran, that is the main victim of the killings in Iran, the main victim of terrorism of the regime outside of Iran, and they're also acting as engine for change. They launched a major assault on the headquarters of the supreme leader when he was still alive. and inflicting heavy casualties on the Revolutionary Guards, showing the people of Iran that the resistance is strong, signaling to the outside world that change at the end of the day will have to come from within by those who have been fighting this regime for the past 47 years. It will be at the end of the day the victory of those who are fighting against the Revolutionary Guards on the ground. It is only in that situation that you're going to see end of all the terrorism and the hostage taking and the warmongering that the regime has been inflicting on the whole region over the past few decades. Everything else you do at the end of the day is going to hit this, the deadlock of the Iranian regime. That's why that obstacle must be removed if we are to see peace and tranquility in the region.
Strong resilience from the population and the citizens, clearly in the face of death and tyranny. Thousands, countless thousands that we may not even know of until the end of this, who have lost their lives due to this regime, especially in the last several weeks and months. Ali Reza, any concern that right now the boots on the ground seem to be Mossad and the CIA assisting the Kurds by some reports, and the Kurds being perhaps the strongest fighters in the region, even dating back to the different conflicts with the Iraq War, to the Persian Gulf War, and of course the 10 Years' War between Iran and Iraq all those years ago. Will any additional boots be needed on the ground to assist the Kurds in that situation? And then also, do you fear any sort of spiraling that could take place with a population that seems to want Republican form of governance, that turning into somewhat of a civil war or a power vacuum after the Ayatollahs are completely removed?
Well, first of all, the real boots on the ground are actually those in Iran, the Iranians who have been fighting the regime for the past 47 years. All over the country. Of course, Iran is very, multinational. We have the Kurds, we have the Azeris, we have the Baluchis, the Arabs, the Lurs, and interestingly, the one thing all of them have in common that they were all badly repressed under the Shah and his father, Reza Shah, and then after the fall of the Pahlavi dynasty, the mullahs repressed them. So all of these national minorities, which constitute a significant portion of the population, I would say anywhere between 35 to 40% of the population are these minorities, including the Kurds, and they don't want to see any role whatsoever of these past dictatorship of the Shah or the current theocracy. And ironically, the son of the Shah, who somehow out of nowhere is trying to inject himself into this whole equation, is rejected by these minorities who see the rise of fascism again under him. And he attacked them, he calls them separatists. So actually any role that the son of the Shah would play could only escalate the tension between the various nationalities, which, by the way, Iran has always been a very unified nation wanting to work together when it comes to the population. It was always repressive central governments that try to repress them. And the son of the Shah only represents the dictatorship of the Shah, clearly rejected by the rest of the population, but also he's rejected by the minorities and others who don't want to see any kind of hostility. So in order to guarantee that there will not be fragmentations or hostilities or tensions or, as you said, civil war, you need to have an organized force that operates all over the country, and that's the role that Mrs. Rajavi and her Parliament in Exile, the National Council of Resistance of Iran, have been playing, pledging to respect all of the rights of minorities. Actually, one of the items of her 10-point plan is about the rights of minorities, giving them full autonomy within the territorial integrity of Iran, saying that they're free to exercise their culture, their language, and all of that, which they couldn't under the Shah or the mullahs. It's that kind of inclusiveness that would guarantee that the future of Iran would be one of unity and also one that would ensure peace and tranquility in the region.
And a bright future for the Middle East, no question, after the Abraham Accords. So before we let you go, Ali Reza, we dearly appreciate your expertise on this matter and all the work that you've done, not only inside of the federal city, but outside of it, to bring voice to the voiceless, truly. And I think a lot of Americans are looking at this and wondering, how does this all affect China and Russia, especially in lieu of next week's court hearing with Mr. Maduro and Ms. Flores, the former president and first lady of Venezuela, and that oil that both China and Russia were relying upon in turn. How does this all affect America domestically, as we now, at least in the interim, seeing gas go up and other costs of goods from the grocery store to ultimately housing and other things? We're a globalized world, and sometimes destabilization affects that. But the president out there on the campaign trail talking about how robust this American economy is, regardless of an operation with this extent.
Absolutely. Especially when it comes to Iran, Iran is the most strategically significant country in that part of the world. It has the second largest oil and gas reserves combined in the world, tremendous human resources. So when Iran comes under the control of the bad players like the mullahs, everything goes wrong in the region. They became the epicenter of war and terror in the region. And when Iran is controlled by a dictatorship like it was under the Shah, it becomes so unstable, and it becomes the breeding ground for Islamic fundamentalism. That's how it actually grew under the Shah. That's why really the only solution is democracy, political pluralism, and inclusiveness of the great nation of Iran that can play the role that they deserve, a very constructive role, not just for the people of Iran, but also for the whole region. And it's not a wishful thinking. It's not just something imaginary. This is something that this movement, especially Mrs. Rajiv, has worked for decades in creating the principles that everyone would agree upon. That 10-point platform, just building the coalition with other forces within Iran, emphasizing on the need to end the rule of dictatorship in any form and shape, but also paying a high price. These things are not things on the paper. Tens of thousands of members of this movement have been executed by the Iran regime. Let me show you. I have a little booklet here. It's actually a very thick book. I don't know if you can see the thickness, how big it is. And it contains the names on particulars of 20,000 members of the MEK who have been killed by the Iran regime. It includes pictures of so many people who have been killed by the regime. This is a huge price that has already been paid by the movement. And based on this price that was paid, only just in the summer of 1988, as many as 30,000 political prisoners belonging to this movement were, vast majority of them were members of the MEK, actually were murdered by the Iran regime, hoping that this will put an end to any voice of dissent in Iran. Not so. Now you see the sons and daughters, the grandchildren, and the siblings and family members of those who were murdered decades ago, who are now in the streets, who are seeking freedom in Iran. So no matter how many people the regime kills, that desire of a nation to free themselves, but also play a constructive role in the whole region and globally, cannot be extinguished. And that's what we see regarding Iran.
The blood of the martyrs not taken in vain, remembered, and we hear their voices as our prayers are with their families, our thoughts with our troops as well in this operation that has been nearly flawless by all military standards. And we're grateful for you, Ali Reza Jafarzadeh, our dear friend out of the Federal City, Deputy Director of the National Council of Resistance of Iran. Thank you for your work, and please come back and see us very soon again on Right Side Broadcasting Network.
And thank you so much for the great work you're doing, trying to inform the American public, putting out the facts and information. This is so, so crucial. This is the biggest weapon we have, the facts. And we are happy to have the facts on our side and happy to be on your show every time the necessity comes, I'll be totally very happy to participate. Really appreciate that.
Thank you, sir, and God be with the good people of Iran as we continue to cover today's news. President Trump in Doral in Miami. We're watching all of that play out today as he's been there the last few days with meetings and also, of course, military operations and his team there on the ground, awaiting the president's remarks roughly an hour or so from now at this Republican conference there in Miami, Florida. Sun shining brightly there today as this president also hosting the Americas, 15 different nations to fight off the cartel influence that we've seen over the last couple of decades. And Secretary of State Marco Rubio, in true fashion, in a bilingual way, getting that message out there to the Americans, 12 leaders there at that summit over the weekend. Thank you for all that you do, the great viewers of Right Side Broadcasting Network. We dearly appreciate your support, and we know you can go to a number of different places out there, and we are very, very thankful for your support here at the network. RSBnetwork.com/donate is a great way to give. And you can visit that, again, rsbnetwork.com/donate to help us get the truth out there. As Ali Reza said, that's our goal here on the right side of history, to simply get the truth out there, keep the elected officials honest, both Republican, Democrat, Independent, and every other third party that exists in America, because this is the government you put into place back on November 5th of 2024. As we see some of the sites and footage from that 2024 campaign, one that will not be forgotten and one that will be amplified in these midterms, as we saw with Texas last week. What a surprise there, the March 3rd primaries, some of those races leading to runoffs in the United States Senate race between the incumbent John Cornyn and also Attorney General Ken Paxton in the Republican primary. And Miss Crockett, our friend from Texas, will no longer be in Congress after January 7th of next year, losing to her opponent. So very interesting to see, as Congressman Dan Crenshaw as well losing to his primary challenger. We will watch as the populist movement seems very, very powerful and influential on both sides of the aisle right here in the United States. So what a way to kick off the campaign season. We know President Trump on the ground, as he was most recently in Rome, Georgia, to endorse specific candidates. But that's why we are here as your rally network, your go-to live desk, and also covering the latest from the Trump White House. Thank you to mypillow.com/RSBN for the mattress and topper sale, now as low as $99.99. Speaking of midterms, the CEO, Mike Lindell, running for governor of the great state of Minnesota, where all his manufacturing facilities are. And that's where you get all of these great Made in America products. Free shipping along with this mattress and topper sale. MyPillow.com. Call today. Do not delay. It's 800-836-7566. And right there you get the promo code RSBN. Support Mike Lindell. Support Right Side Broadcasting Network. MyPillow.com/RSBN. And save with code RSBN. Easy enough to remember. 2,000 different products at this site. Some of my favorites, the My Slipper to the My Coffee in the morning. In fact, we have some My Coffee right over here. I'll show you this on air. It is one of the best that's out there. And with a smiling patriot right on the front defending that Bill of Rights. We love Mike Lindell, and we're grateful for his support on the right side of history. Of course, the MyPillow 1.0, the 2.0, but right now that mattress and topper sale going for as low as $99.99. Promo code RSBN. That number once more, 800-836-7566. I can smell the aroma from the coffee beans. They are truly one of the best, and it's a way I get my day started with this dark roast, a French press that is unlike any other. So go to mypillow.com/RSBN. Thank you for sponsoring us on the right side of history as we prepare for President Trump and his remarks at the Doral Club down there in Miami, Florida. Great place to go play golf. It's a public course. You might as well check it out the next time you're down in Miami, an ever-growing city. The excitement happening there in sunny southern Florida. Also, we can go to Truth Social and see where the president is talking on a plethora of different issues, from the Save America Act to what's happening in Iran, and also different congressional proceedings happening inside the Beltway. But over the course of the last hour, with cut number one, Mr. Producer, President Trump speaking with the Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese of Australia, concerning the Iranian national women's soccer team. He's on it. 5 have already been taken care of, and the rest are on their way. Some, however, feel they must go back because they are worried about the safety of their families, including threats to those family members if they do not return. In any event, the Prime Minister is doing a very good job having to do with this rather immediate situation. God bless Australia, President Donald John Trump. So we're watching all that closely, and the 4D chess taking place with this administration, and also what the president has done, choosing to with the Israeli government strike Iran over the course of the last 9 days. Perhaps one of the most swift operations we have ever seen outside of what just took place in Venezuela on January 2nd of this year. Also, that Save America Act. President Trump speaking on, it's not the Save Act, it's the Save America Act, a much better and more important name, President DJT, and we know that getting rid of motor voter, which really led to the problems you see now, right, left, and center throughout my career, especially since COVID. You've had people in both major parties to third-party movements complaining or taking to court different results of different elections based on whether it be ranked choice voting to not showing a voter ID to any issues that have been clearly at the polls. And don't take my word for it. It's the people that are actually there working it or watching this election integrity issue. We have now seen, as we interviewed State Senator Greg Dolezal of Cumming, Georgia, running for lieutenant governor of the Peach State, he spoke right to that when we interviewed him live in Rome, Georgia, before the president's remarks there back on February 19th, and what happened with the ensuing investigation as DNI Chief Tulsi Gabbard was on the ground when the FBI and other federal authorities in the Department of Justice seizing the results and what could lead to evidence of scandal in the 2020 election. We'll wait to watch that story, as so much happening throughout the world, including cut number 3 with the short-term oil prices and the result of this situation taking place over the course of the last 9 days. President Trump touching on this. Short-term oil prices, which will drop rapidly when the destruction of the Iran nuclear threat is over, is a very small price to pay for the United States of America, for the world, safety, and peace. Only fools would think differently. President Donald John Trump, DJT right there. And for my own analysis, as I've looked over this over the last few days, being away from you for a period of time here as this all unfolded, I really thought about two things: America first and peace through strength. In addition to those promises made by this president, his ability to be open and honest and forthright with the American people on a near daily basis, as we've broadcast this here for you, whether it's press conferences to impromptu questions and answer sessions, as he's met with countless different leaders in business, public and private life, inside and outside of the White House. This president has been remarkably transparent, including his cabinet, who have met together at least once a month all of last year, including looking to build gaps within the federal government to not only streamline it, but also to make results happen for the American people. And that promise is clear. Although this president is the peace president, we saw that with the gathering of the Americas in Miami, Florida at Doral to make sure narco-terrorists are not taking advantage of our countries in our Western hemisphere. This president has been very clear about the Iranian threat. No nuclear bomb. Also an ending of their ballistic missile systems and handling what has been over the course of 47 years, attacks on American troops, the Marine barracks in Beirut, Lebanon, as awful as it was in 1983, losing over 230 of our brave service members. Every loss of life is tragic, And this regime responsible for countless thousands, as you saw there from Ali Reza just moments ago, looking through that book of 20,000 plus that we know of with their names and their photos of Iranian citizens. So this is something that a regime that came into power in 1979 has been very clear about. Destroying and eradicating Israel off the face of the earth, off the map, and also threatening American interests around the world and right here at home. So we're watching all of this very closely, as we did see with at least one flight, Southwest Airlines being grounded in Nashville, Tennessee in Atlanta, Georgia from Nashville, Tennessee, BNA originally, going down to Fort Lauderdale, Florida, with an alleged bomb threat. So be mindful when you're out there, be realistic, always talk to the authorities, always be aware of your surroundings. At the same time, do not live in fear, as we are definitely seeing strength here at home. As we await the president's remarks roughly 1 hour from now, 3:30, the bottom of the hour, that'll be roughly 4:30, 4:35. So stick with us as we continue to cover the latest from the Trump White House. And thank you to All Family Pharmacy, as ivermectin back in the headlines. If you're looking for that, you need the right pharmacy to go to. And with code RSBN10, that's RSBN10, get 10% off of ivermectin, mebendazole, hydrochloroquine, much more. Did you know the National Cancer Institute has launched an early stage lab research to study how ivermectin works in the body? This includes how it interacts with cancer cells and how that they may be destroyed with the use of this parasite cleanser, which has become much more effective in all different forms of defending your body. Now, this is not a treatment recommendation. It's just early stage research taking place, and All Family Pharmacy wants to lead the way of getting this access to you by visiting allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. But this does highlight how medications that were once pushed to the sidelines, even though they are FDA approved, have now come back into the light. For many Americans, this raises an important question about the right to try, access, the most favored nation status. For many Americans, they want affordability, they want convenience, and if you've been looking for a reliable place, there's no one better, not only online, but even against your traditional pharmacies that may not prescribe things like ivermectin and hydrochloroquine, NAD+, and much more. So scan that QR code there now for, again, 10% off with code RSBN10, RSBN10. You go online, complete the short medical form. A U.S. licensed doctor reviews that order, sends it right back to your door on the other end. So if you really value convenience, and again, although spring has sprung, especially down here in the southeast, we know from this winter that travel and other things can be delayed by wintry storms. So it's good to remain stocked up and ready to go, especially with Tamiflu. Allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN, 300 plus essential medications, life-saving medications. They're ready to go for you, including those emergency medical kits. You could travel with them as well. So again, allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN, and have the peace of mind with things that are leading in research right now, like ivermectin. So be sure to stock up on your medical needs with allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Also, speaking of peace of mind, how about financial peace of mind as the dollar is going down? So what do? One great way to do that is diversifying your savings with gold and tangible silvers, hot commodities, metals that have stood the test of time. Text Trump to 989898. The Birch Gold Group leading the way on this to diversify your IRA and 401k. Again, text Trump to 989898. With international disputes, inflation, rising national debt, and now conflicts not only in Venezuela but to Iran, and a world that can be destabilized seemingly overnight, there is a never-ending reason and list to why gold is the best option for you and yours moving forward in diversification of what you've worked hard for. Did you know that gold risen over 700% in the last 20 years? 700%, and it's been skyrocketing ever since President Trump's inauguration. Now, Adding that never-ending list to the reasons Americans have so much on their plate and so much on their mind in 2026, a portion of their savings through the Birch Gold Group can be diversified right here today. And what's beautiful about this, it's not one size fits all. Your shoes, a different shoe size than someone else, and this gold guide on the house so you can review everything. Again, text Trump to 989898. See if it's even a good option for you right now. More than any other commodity, gold thrives during uncertain times, which it's why crucial to have it for a balanced strategy when it comes to your life savings and everything you've worked hard to achieve. So again, diversify the IRA and the 401k with Birch Gold Group. And Philip Patrick, our dear friend and patriot, who joins us on a regular basis to talk the importance of gold, silver, tangible metals that can make a massive difference for you and yours in your portfolio. The dollar going down, gold going up. It's been doing that for a long time now, and there's no obligation on this kit. So look at your options. This wonderful company, Birch Gold Group, an A+ Better Business Bureau rating for a number of years now, and they have happy customers, peace of mind. It's common sense at this point. Diversify all those savings. Text Trump to 989898 as we await. Roughly 59 minutes from now, the President of the United States set to headline a members' issues conference with the Republican conference there. Many congressmen, senators retiring, some to run for governor, some just to leave government, at least for the short term. These midterms will be the one for the ages. So we hope you're with us here at the #1 source for political events, your go-to live desk and rally network, right here on the right side of history. It's Right Side Broadcasting Network. We'll take a quick break for commercial sponsors, and we'll see you back on the other side after the break.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from Diamond and Silk Chit Chat Live. Look, don't forget to watch my show right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's imperative that you do so, okay? Bye-bye.
Welcome back to Right Side Broadcasting Network. I'm Robert McNeely. This is your #1 source nationwide, worldwide, for political events in the United States of America, as the president is set to address a GOP conference at 4:35 Eastern, right there in the free Sunshine State of Florida. We look forward to bringing you that live coverage right when it happens. In the meantime, we are breaking down what is a wild world out there, but what President Trump is sharing on Truth Social with cut number 4, and Scott Pressler doing a great job on Fox and Friends this morning, talking about using the filibuster, or talking filibuster in general, in order to pass the Save America Act, an 88% issue with all voters. It must be done immediately. This supersedes everything else. It must go to the front of the line. I, as president, will not sign other bills until passed, and not the watered-down version, go for the gold, must show voter ID and proof of citizenship, no mail-in ballots, except for the military, illness, disability, and travel. No men in women's sports, no transgender mutilation for children. Do not fail. President Donald J. Trump. And this is a monumental reversal, truly, of the motor voter that came from the 1990s and William Jefferson Clinton, his administration, and the 99th Congress during that tenure that ushered that in. A massive mistake. But even 2 decades ago, when I started voting, you needed a reason for a mail-in ballot. Only seems like common sense that you would have less of that, and it would lead to less fraud and less delays, and also unconstitutional actions. For example, during COVID, the Philadelphia or Pennsylvania Supreme Court, the 7-member body, those justices unilaterally extending voting 72 hours after the polls closed on Election Day. Well, last time I checked the Constitution, state legislatures have that right, not Article 3, not the judiciary to act solely alone. So with all of the debacle that happened just a few short years ago, you have Republican and Democrat and independent voters in this country almost unanimous on this one very issue, because then if you have free and fair elections, it's the cornerstone of a constitutional republic. As President Trump, with cut number 5, talking the UK, our once great ally, maybe the greatest of them all, is finally giving serious thought to sending 2 aircraft carriers to the Middle East. That's okay, Prime Minister Starmer. We don't need them any longer, but we will remember. We don't need people that join wars after we've already won. It's President Donald Trump sharing that on Truth Social, and a day late and a dollar short. We're grateful for the alliance, but we know there's issues happening there domestically with free speech regulations and the fact that if you are in London and the Islamification of that, if I may share that as a word, we're seeing the implementation of Sharia in the very foundation of the 13th century's Magna Carta, which gave birth to our 1776 revolution, ultimately the Bill of Rights, and 56 men who put pen to paper from as young as 18 to mid-age, as it would be considered now. So many of them lived so long, so well past the average age of the 18th century for both men and women. Very sad to see how the birthplace, in many ways, of Western civilization right there in the United Kingdom, almost turning its back on the playbook that led to a freedom in this Western world that few have known outside of it. So we're watching that story closely, as what you have the Mediterranean Sea, the Indian Ocean, the Arabian Sea, all the way through the Persian Gulf, an armada taking place with the Iowa class and the 5th Strike class of the United States Navy, all led by aircraft carriers like the USS Gerald R. Ford, the largest in the world. Really a fleet that is impenetrable, as it's shown to have destroyed the entirety of the Iranian Navy. In fact, one of the operations leading to the first torpedo bombing since World War II. So a shock and awe campaign in this Operation Epic Fury, truly unlike anything we have ever seen, as the American military and the Israeli military, the Air Force and Navy, controlling the seas and the skies over and surrounding Iran in the Middle East, a nation the size of the state of Alaska, geographically speaking. And with cut number 6, President Trump stating that Iran, which is being sent to hell, has apologized and surrendered to its Middle East neighbors and promised that it will not shoot at them anymore. This promise was only made because of the relentless United States and Israeli attack. They were looking to take over and rule the Middle East, and it is the first time that Iran has ever lost in thousands of years to surrounding Middle Eastern countries. They have said, "Thank you, President Trump." I have said, "You're welcome." And Iran is no longer the bully of the Middle East. They are instead the loser of the Middle East, and will be for many decades until they surrender or, more likely, completely collapse. Today, Iran will be hit very hard under serious consideration for complete destruction and certain death. Because of Iran's bad behavior, these areas and groups of people that were not considered for targeting up until this moment in time. Thank you for your attention to this matter. And the Peace Through Strength, America First mantra, defending those who have lost their lives in military service from these proxies, roughly a dozen or so, who have operated most recently in the form of Hamas in the October 7th, 2023 strike on Israel, and also in southern Lebanon with the Houthis, who reigned terror over northern Israel, moving many of those people out of their homes and their farms and their ranches that are really funding Jerusalem and the middle part of the country. And so important to get people back up there and living freely and being able to operate on those lands so that the nation can continue to succeed. With a live shot there of the White House and that one of the new flagpoles there on the north lawn of the White House. As beautiful as a shot that is, as the great sunshine over Lafayette Park there with a view of the Washington National Monument, we'll be taking you to Miami, Florida instead, as the president is there for a GOP conference at 4:35. The president taking some business over the course of the weekend there in the great free sunshine state of Florida. But the Peace Through Strength mantra in which I was speaking of, really culminating in a terrible inflation rate in the country of Iran, creating an unprecedented opportunity for the Iranian people to truly rise up and take their government and perhaps put into place a Republican form of government that we have not seen there in forever. They don't want to go back to the dictatorship of the Shah. They do not want this radical fundamentalism clearly coming from the Ayatollahs. But President Trump, nonetheless, will always defend these America First policies and an enemy like Iran that has been tormenting us for years with cut number 7 and the impressive strength and might, this video from the White House.
On the orders of the President of the United States, U.S. Central Command commences Operation Epic Fury.
I'm gonna shoot you right down.
This regime will soon learn that no one should challenge the strength and might of the United States Armed Forces.
He reminded the world, as he has time and time again, being an American means something unbreakable. If you kill Americans, if you threaten Americans anywhere on earth, we will hunt you down without apology and without hesitation, and we will kill you. We didn't start this war, but under President Trump, we are finishing it. Their war on Americans has become our retribution against their Ayatollah.
Iran is run by lunatics, religious fanatic lunatics. They have an ambition to have nuclear weapons. They intend to develop those nuclear weapons behind a program of missiles and drones and terrorism that the world will not be able to touch them for fear of those things. This is the weakest they've ever been. Now is the time to go after them. The president made the decision to go after them, take away their missiles, take away their navy, take away their drones, take away their ability to make those things so that they can never have a nuclear weapon.
Finally, to the great proud people of Iran, I say tonight that the hour of your freedom is at hand. When we are finished, take over your government. It will be yours to take. This will be probably your only chance for generations.
Boom, boom, boom.
Thank you to our sponsors here on the right side of history, so crucial to bring you all of this unbridled access to your 45th and 47th President of the United States, your 50th Vice President, and the 119th Congress, Rumble Wallet. We are so proud to partner here at Right Side Broadcasting Network with the great people of Rumble. And you can catch all of our broadcasts there, a great way to stream that. But they've brought you now Rumble Wallet. So tip your favorite creators like us here at Right Side Broadcasting Network with crypto. So download for free at the Google Play Store and the App Store. We know that censorship is happening, although we succeeded 4 short years ago when President Trump thrown off of social media and things like Truth Social came along, as well as other platforms like Rumble where free speech matters most. Banks, they can shut down your accounts. We've seen it happen. Platforms controlling the narratives and then bankrupting you after you've worked hard to really pursue the American dream. Who needs that nonsense? So Rumble Wallet was created. We're fighting back peacefully and patriotically. And Rumble, it's very clear, they're the only company that has stood the test of time and deserves our support. On one side, Rumble challenging big tech and the free speech censors, but now on the other side, they took the liberty to create this Rumble Wallet to introduce something that will protect you from the big banks shutting you off. Again, banks can just turn off the lights, just as if you're walking out of the room, and that's why they launched Rumble Wallet, to protect you and yours and diversification through crypto as it emerges with all of the latest financial technology. This wallet is something no one can cancel. Not even Rumble can hack into it and break it. So I would do this right now. Download it at the Google Play and at the App Store, and tip creators like us here at Right Side Broadcasting Network or your favorite podcast hosts so that the middlemen don't take any of the cuts. Cut them right out of it. With Rumble Wallet, you control your money. It's not a bank. It's not a government. It is true decentralized crypto. Not even Rumble can touch this Rumble Wallet. It is the one place to buy and save and share digital assets in this new emerging market here in 2026. So go to wallet.rumble.com, tip your favorite creators like us here at Right Side Broadcasting Network or others across the podcast sphere and in the new media to get the truth out to the American people. Free speech meets financial freedom. Rumble Wallet at wallet.rumble.com. Download for free. Google Play and the Apple Store. Also, very much is needed to thank the great Cove Pure. Get $250 off right now. CovePure.com/RSBN. Protect what matters most. If you're renting right now, this is a great option because you don't need to drill holes. You don't need to put anything in there for a reverse osmosis system and then you lose your security deposit or something on your way out. This is what you see right there. It's much like a coffee maker that you probably already have on your kitchen counter. You can get the hot water quick, cold water quick, lukewarm water in a matter of seconds. So we're past this whole new year, new me by the time we've hit now March 9th. And even though we're in the middle of the Lenten season, I'm sure many of us working on resolutions. One of the smartest ways to do that, hydrate yourself and keep yourself healthy with pure water. And we can make that easy through CovePure.com. Most people tend to go overboard buying new supplements, trying a new diet, being obsessed with new workouts, but they completely ignore the most important, hydrating yourself on a daily basis. Water, even mild dehydration, can impact functions throughout the day, your thought process. It can make it very cloudy. This is nature's gift to us, and we are mostly composed of water, so you might as well protect what matters most by drinking pure and living pure. When you think about all of the garbage that's in the water, and RFK, my goodness, the HHS secretary, has been vindicated in what his whole career has worked hard for clean air, clean water, something Republicans and Democrats both want. CovePure.com/RSBN, making it affordable and a great opportunity for you with their ClearWave technology, removing 99.9% of the impurities found in the water. We're talking fluoride, pesticides, agricultural runoff, to the bad taste of tap water. So you might as well have pure, clear, good water. Get rid of the microplastics, the PFAs, all of that residue. And you can do that today. CovePure.com/RSBN. Get $250 off right now. My favorite system for reverse osmosis wear, and it is some of the best out there. CovePure.com/RSBN. Thank you for sponsoring us on the right side of history as we await the president's remarks coming to you, scheduled for 4:35 this afternoon on the East Coast. It's 1:35 on the West Coast. So stay tuned for all of that as we break down the latest from the Trump White House, and specifically President Trump speaking on Truth Social with cut number 8, and that we really are a grateful nation, honoring the brave American heroes who answered the call without hesitation as they return home for the final time. May God bless America's armed forces. And the president there with the First Lady, the Vice President, the Second Lady, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, as well as General Dan Raisin Kane, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. We have lost now 7, as at the time this weekend, 6 that were returned home at Dover, Delaware, for that honor transfer of those who have paid the final sacrifice to protect our great nation. We can skip to number 10 as well and read off all of those names via Truth Social that the president did share at that Air Force base in Dover, Delaware. Of course, this is in honor of Major Jeffrey R. O'Brien, Captain Cody A. Cork, Sergeant First Class Nicole M. Armour, also having Chief Warrant Officer Robert M. Marzin, Sergeant First Class Noah T. Hins, and Sergeant Declan J. Cody. May their memory be eternal. May they rest in peace. And thank God for those who are willing to lay down their lives for their friends. It's the greatest form of love. And there are really only 2 entities that have done that in the fullest and most extreme way. As we believe, Christians here in this country, that we celebrate leading up to the Easter season, that our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ did that on the cross to open up that eternal salvation, to be with him in heaven in paradise forever. But then there's also the American soldier who laid down their lives from all different backgrounds in this great country of ours, many who lost out on 2 lives, the one they were living as young men and women, but also the one they were to live, to come back to serve in countless generations in their communities, getting married, having a family, robbed of 2 lives really in one grand narrative. And so they are willing to lay down their lives for your freedom. And it's something to be remembered each and every day in this great country of ours as we are embarking on a Peace Through Strength mission that, God willing, we will help see better days as we approach 250 years of this great country come the 4th of July. And we could play that video of cut number 10, if that's available, Mr. Producer, to remember these great fallen heroes. President Trump meeting with the Shield of America's group, 15 nations fighting for this Western Hemisphere in what is and what has become the so-called Monroe Doctrine. Of course, a play on words from the Monroe Doctrine, but securing our Western Hemisphere from threats abroad, whether it be China and the narco-trafficking coming through rogue nations in South and Central America, but also 12 leaders meeting with President Trump in Doral, in Miami, Florida, over the course of the weekend in a show of strength of the North American and South American governments that want this peace through strength mantra, that do not want to be controlled by the cartels that have caused much death and much harm throughout our hemisphere. That has all begun to change over the course of this administration with cut number 9 and the Shields of America.
This morning, I'm honored to welcome distinguished heads of state from across the Western Hemisphere. For the first Shield of the Americas Summit, we come together to announce a brand new military coalition to eradicate the criminal cartels plaguing our region. The heart of our agreement is a commitment to using lethal military force to destroy the sinister cartels and terrorist networks. Once and for all, we'll get rid of them. Every leader here today is united in the conviction that we cannot and will not tolerate the lawlessness in our hemisphere any longer.
We want the world to see that when you are a friend and an ally of the United States, it is a good thing. It's reciprocated.
The ACCC will be a force for good, for peace through strength in this hemisphere. We look forward to working with your great countries.
Thank you to our sponsors here on the right side of history as we await President Trump's remarks down there in sunny Southern Florida moments from now. Angelpaste.com, the miracle cream you can find right here. I use this every day. Keep my skin glowing as much as possible. And this is for the guys and the gals. A great stocking stuffer. And you could say, oh, it's months. Bobby, we got months until Christmas. Well, St. Patrick's Day is right around the corner. A great gift in mind for a birthday or that springtime as we get some warmer temperatures. 10% off now with code RSBN. Scan that QR code there as they have a great orange option which can help with collagen and also just fighting off cold and flu as it's still very prevalent this time of year. A natural facial spray as well to keep your skin glowing and that opportunity to paint the town red. Again, good for guys and gals. Go check out their products there at angelpaste.com. Thank you for sponsoring us on the right side of history. They are Christian owned. They hire veterans. They're based out of Spring, Texas in the Houston Metroplex. And we know it's off of the Gulf of America, a great place to live. Again, thank you to angelpaste.com, this miracle cream that I use every single day. 10% off right now, code RSBN. Also, ivermectin back in the headlines. The National Cancer Institute actually studying its ability to not only remove parasites, it's what it's really known for, but also how it combats cancer cells. Now, this is not a treatment recommendation necessarily, but we want you to have that most favored nation status. We want you to have the right to try. So does allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Code RSBN10, that's RSBN10 for 10% off these life-saving medications from ivermectin, mebendazole, hydrochloroquine, NAD+. And it highlights how medications that were once pushed to the sidelines are now being studied by major institutions. Sadly, Big Pharma and others, they don't want you to necessarily try or have or seem to make a good business investment into the off-label generics, but All Family Pharmacy puts you and family first. And if you've been looking for a reliable price to get medications and also that convenience, unlike any other, to stock up in case you do need these 300 plus life-saving essential medications, All Family Pharmacy makes it simple. You fill out a medical form, it gets reviewed by a U.S. licensed doctor on the other end, and that gentleman or lady sends it on back to where you ordered from. It's as easy as pie. allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN, code RSBN10 for 10% off now. 300 plus medications. Go ahead and scan that QR code there now for that opportunity. allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Thank you for sponsoring us on Right Side Broadcasting Network. The president set to headline a members issues conference. So we'll take you there at the bottom of the hour to Doral, a wonderful golf club, a public golf club. So if you go on down to Miami, try your hand out on the Links, one of the finest clubs in all of Florida, if not the entire world. We know that Trump Golf, some of the best out there. You might have a chance to see number 45 and 47 himself, especially on a weekend where you might get a Polaroid with the President of the United States, who knows as a great public course, that being enhanced by the Blue Monster. One of the toughest holes, number 18. The scoring average of that hole is right around 4.7. So it's par is 4 on that hole. The pros are scoring over par on that hole. It's a tough one. And I hate to admit this. Years ago, I played it before the president owned it. I had a whopping double digit on that bad boy because that green is tough. It's fast. So get a chance to go down to Miami and play a great course and a great center for public policy, and another spot there just south of Mar-a-Lago where the president is able to conduct operations outside of Washington, D.C. As the president is set to headline that issue, we are happy to welcome onto the show a dear friend, Jim Paff, the president of the Conservative Caucus. And Jim, so much happening over the course of the last 9 to 10 days. Where do you see this operation ultimately ending? I was somewhat surprised by it, but the president's been consistent. Look, if it's not America first, if it's not peace through strength, and if you keep attacking our interests, if you keep the proliferation of nuclear fissile material, and again with these ballistic missiles going all over the place, things might have to change.
Yeah, I'm confident in Donald Trump's motives and that he will make it an America First effort and that he will seek to have it end that way and continue on that way. I personally have no idea how this is going to end up. I think that we can have some confidence that the dynamics are not such that this ends up being another Iraq war, and that's good. And I actually don't believe that George W. Bush's motives were all that good there. I don't think he was entirely putting America's interests first. I think that there were other interests he was concerned about. Donald Trump's interests are entirely America's interests, and I definitely believe that. And what's interesting about this conflict is that I think it really has a geopolitical dynamic that goes way beyond Iran only. I mean, keep in mind, Iran had its fingers in a whole lot of things around the world. It didn't so much send its interests out around the world. It did through organizations like Hezbollah and Hamas and some terror organizations, but it did not have this broad extension outward into the geopolitical sphere. But it did have connections broadly in the geopolitical sphere, mostly related around its oil. So we know now that, as many of us hadn't given deep consideration of, China gets 55% of its oil from Iran. Remember, China is a unique problem, Japan as well, too, in the world. China doesn't have a lot of oil to produce. Japan's an interesting story because there is, I think, zero oil production in Japan. That region of the world that those two countries are around, there's no oil to be drilling for, or at least not much of it. Fast forward to today, and Iran is significantly important for China to get oil, and it's been doing so illicitly on the international stage, outside of sanctions efforts. So China is affected by this. Donald Trump, between Venezuela and Iran, have really struck at the heart of China's distribution of oil opportunities. That is another factor in what's happening here. I'm positive about that because China doesn't play fair around the world. It meddles into other countries. It allows really bad things to happen on the international stage, and it's propped up the Ayatollahs and the mullahs in Iran who have been acting bad actors on the international stage. So Donald Trump is not only dealing with the Iran issue, he's dealing with a lot of very key issues internationally, and that is America first, and I think it's something we can support.
How is this set up, the meeting set to happen in China between Xi Jinping and the president? Because to your point, Jim, this even dates back to the geography and the problems that led to World War II, not to ever justify what the Japanese did. In fact, the admiral famously saying, "We've awoken a sleeping giant," but they were running out of oil. Their geography doesn't have that there. And after invading China for more land and the U.S. embargo on oil leading up to the December 7th, 1941 attack on Pearl Harbor, this changes the whole globe with what's happened in Venezuela and Iran as of late.
Well, and by the way, the other factor in World War II was the Boxer Rebellion just before World War II. Japan had invaded China to go for whatever little oil that they do have. I think they produce 10-15% of their own oil. So you have some similar setups geopolitically much different calculations. But yeah, I think that what this forestalls, for the most part, are raging geopolitical issues that Iran had its fingers into, and China's ability to continue down its geopolitical path, knowing it could get all the oil it wants from bad actors. And it can't do that anymore. So when Donald Trump sits down with Xi Jinping, he'll be able, you're not going to hear this publicly, but he'll be able to look at him in the eye and say, let me tell you something, buddy. We're not putting up with this anymore. You just saw one thing, and I'm willing to do more if I have to. So don't screw with us. And that message is going to get there somehow. Of course, Donald Trump has proven himself capable of delivering that message in a different manner than I just did, but with that sort of an effect. I think it's very important what those meetings with Xi Jinping are going to be like. And if we have a good result showing in Iran in the next few weeks, that radically transforms what that meeting is going to be all about. Now, I do have to say, for the record, I don't know what this is going to look like in 2 to 4 weeks from now. I'm really not clear, because I do have concerns about what's going to succeed the Iranian government if Donald Trump is capable of overthrowing it entirely. Now, when I say overthrowing it, I mean getting it so weak that the people of Iran can rise up and choose the next path. And that is really up in the air, and I do not know what that looks like, but you've got a large Persian population in Iran that are not radical Muslims by nature and by character, and they can, if possible, come up and provide an alternative. If they can't do that, all bets are off. This is a really risky gamble that Donald Trump's taking, and we'll see what happens. The reward is really high, though.
Oh, very much so. And Jim, I wanted to hit on this very topic because since the dawn of the Republic, we've had 125 military engagements, whether they be in war, small operations. That has been the existence dating back to the Tripoli Pirates and, of course, the Marine theme song, where the president does have those presidential powers. Now, of course, we have the War Powers Act of 1973, many debating whether or not that's constitutional. Is this the one issue? We know the Democrats, if they do take the House, they've pledged it from Newsom to Jeffries. They want to make him speaker. They want to move on an impeachment. Is this what they can hinge their so-called suit coat to because they need some sort of floating issue in order to impeach the president?
Well, if they do take back Congress, then certainly they're going to do that. Of course, they would be doing so hypocritically, and I don't think it would even, it would certainly cause a ruckus and a problem, but it's not going to fail. You're going to see all the videos of Democrats talking about how it was no big deal for Barack Obama to go in and overthrow Gaddafi in Benghazi. And that was an 8-month war. Let's just keep in mind, if this is a war, that one went longer and was entirely the same sort of thing that Donald Trump's doing. I think for more nefarious purposes, because Gaddafi had come to heel with us and had made a deal, and Barack Obama broke that deal and decided to have regime change in Libya, that harkening back to earlier days of Thomas Jefferson, because Tripoli's in Libya, people didn't know. But that they went right at it in ways that I think were absolutely wrong and was absolutely mere regime change war for nefarious purposes. Democrats and Republicans alike prior to Donald Trump typically did poorly on this. But so if they try to bring it up, it's going to be messy. It's going to cause problems, again, assuming they take over the House. But nonetheless, I think there's an argument to be made and to make the Democrats look like fools. So afterwards, that's going to be the play, at least as regards this. But if Donald Trump wins this thing in the way that he wants to, where we have no boots on the ground, we're not involved in the regime change, it becomes an operation of the Iranian people and not an operation of the United States, and the Iranian mullahs are gone, and the chance of state-sponsored terrorism goes away, that's a big win. In spite of Republicans who don't want to give themselves a big win, because we can talk about the whole Save America Act thing. I mean, they won't do the 80% issue. Republicans are too scared to take on the 80% issue because they're feckless, many of them in the Senate, and we can't get them to get off their duffs and do what the American people want. So the risk also for Donald Trump is that he did this and that there are a lot of people, certainly from my way of thinking as well, who would say, why are we doing more war? Now, I'm supportive of the president. I think they're doing a good job, it seems, and I get the geopolitical construct here. But there are still many also, even in some areas of the Republican Party, that aren't the John Cornyn types or that sort of people who are rhinos who don't want to support Donald Trump. They're actually the Thomas Masseys of the world, the Rand Pauls of the world, who would otherwise be supportive of Donald Trump, but are just cannot get past this line. So we'll see how that plays out as well, too. We need Republicans to do something in Congress that the American people want. They've done almost nothing except the big, beautiful bill passage last year. So that is really the problem for Republicans in general, not so much what Donald Trump's doing, unless this went really bad.
And speaking of congressional authority and action, if memory serves me correctly, of those 125 military engagements, only 11 were declarations of war, 5 being related to what took place in and during and after World War II. So something to watch there for the history buffs. As we're up against a hard break, Jim, thank you for joining us today. We just see some breaking news that it looks as if the Trump administration subpoenaing the Arizona 2020 voting records. We saw what happened in Fulton County. DNI Chief Tulsi Gabbard on the ground for those records. What do you see happening in turn with this? And then ultimately, yes, can we pass that Save America Act?
For any jurisdiction in the country to violate its state voting laws. That seems to be the basis for this, and also for Fulton County. And so that's an actionable effort under federal law. Listen, we can argue forever over whether the 2020 election was stolen. I think Donald Trump is convinced of that in his mind. I think there are many reasons to still be suspicious of what took place in 2020. Democrats always make this thing of whether, all these courts, they didn't hear your case, and so it's totally invalid. Well, none of those courts would listen because they either argued Trump doesn't have standing or, frankly, other reasons to just get out of it. We haven't adjudicated those problems. This will allow us to do some of that. But we have got to change our voting system. There are rogue counties and rogue states that will do their own thing in violation of the law and, frankly, to massage the results of elections. That needs to be investigated, and then we got to pass the Save America Act because we got to eliminate this unsolicited mail ballots and only allow citizens to vote. If Republicans don't have the courage to do that, I think they're going down big and have no chance of winning in 2026. If they were to do it, even if they did the Save America Act under the standing filibuster and lost that, I think the American people could support it because they want this change. It's an 80% issue. Donald Trump's doing nothing negative in the eyes of the American people by taking this on in Maricopa County or Fulton County. And just watch out. There are probably other counties to come. Look at Clark County in Nevada. Look at counties in Pennsylvania. Look at in Detroit as well, too, because there were some weird things that happened there. So we need to really pay attention to this. We need it adjudicated. We need the Department of Justice to take these actions. We can survive a lot of political problems. We can't survive if we don't fix our elections.
And we know the traditions of Cook County, Illinois, where I was born, and the many graveyards that still sometimes vote. It's a sad matter of fact, but we're always happy to have you, Jim Paff, the president of the Conservative Caucus. Thanks for joining us on short notice here on the right side of history.
Thanks, Robert. Good to see you.
And as we cover the latest from the Trump White House, we are watching as the president set to headline that amazing Members Issues Conference coming up at the bottom of the hour. Thank you to All Family Pharmacy. All the rage right now, ivermectin. Do you know it's in the National Cancer Center institutional research happening right now to see how this parasite cleanser can actually attack those terrible cancer cells that we all might be living with, and another weapon against that terrible C word that many of us have either come to deal with on our own or have had family members and friends who have dealt with it over the years. You need the right pharmacy to attack these big issues in life, and allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN leading the way on that. Code RSBN10. Scan that QR code there now for ivermectin, mebendazole, hydrochloroquine, and much, much more. They also have emergency medical kits, Tamiflu, great for this time of year with cold and flu season. You could travel with them. Let me tell you how this works. You fill out the form right there. If you scan that QR code there or visit the website, a U.S. licensed doctor on the other end reviews that order, and they send it right back to you. So talk about convenience and about the right to try off-label generics that many of the pharmacies down the street from you simply will not prescribe. Big Pharma doesn't like this, but you've seen what the administration working hard to do with most favored nation status and that right to try and transparency in the prices. Allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN leading the way as the go-to online pharmacy. Again, allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Smart to stock up your medicine cabinet and to travel as spring break right around the corner. Spring break right here in Auburn University, taking the break off this week amongst others in the region. Scan that QR code there and get these life-saving meds to have at home and to travel on the road with you at allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. It's all about peace of mind. And once your health is taken care of, why not diversify your savings and your 401k IRA through the Birch Gold Group by texting Trump to 989898. We know the dollar is going down. What are you to do with your savings when the world goes awry? So much happening, whether it's the domestic economy, the global economy, conflicts in Iran, the apprehension of Maduro with his court case with the former First Lady of Venezuela, Ms. Flores, next week on St. Patrick's Day in New York City. All of this affects your bottom line, affects your savings, and whether it's property, whether it's hard-earned dollars, we know that the dollar can be weak at times, and it's been rather weak over the course of the last several years with a national debt skyrocketing to $39 trillion plus. So diversify your savings with gold going up over 700% over the course of the last 2 decades. So text Trump to 989898. Learn with no obligation to you the free info kit on gold IRAs. Again, through Birch Gold Group, you can at least look and see how it's not one size fits all. It's tailored to you, a plan for your future with gold, silver, and tangible metals right there at Birch Gold Group. We're grateful for the sponsorship here on the right side of history. Text Trump to 989898 and learn how you can diversify what you have worked hard for, the American dream, right there at Birch Gold Group, as we are getting close now to the main event today at 4:35 Eastern, a scheduled meeting between the president and the Republican conference there. And although it's a gorgeous day in the federal city, the president's scheduled to return back to Washington, D.C. later tonight. In the meantime, having those meetings with the national security apparatus, his domestic policy team in Miami, Florida, and his Doral Club with just a gorgeous shot of our nation's capital now as we approach this event. We'll take a quick moment for a commercial break for more sponsorships here on the right side of history. I'm Robert McNeely. Thanks for joining us here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. Do not change that dial. We'll be back with you in a moment.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from Diamond and Silk Chit Chat Live. Look, don't forget to watch my show right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's imperative that you do so, okay? Bye-bye.
Network as we await the president for remarks at a Republican conference live from Doral down there in sunny southern Florida. As we wait for that, did you know that Right Side Broadcasting Network proud to partner with Rumble and our friends over there? It's the preferred platform of Right Side Broadcasting Network. You can watch any of the broadcasts there anytime, but they've also released Rumble Wallet, wallet.rumble.com, to tip your favorite creators with crypto. And you can not only watch and protect free speech, you can actually not only tip and trade in the amazing crypto market, but you can also help us here on the right side of history by going to Google Play or the App Store and downloading for free. You may have seen the conversations happening online lately. We know people want to cancel others, and specifically people, I'm talking about those big corporate entities, those banks that can shut off your credit card, and platforms that are controlling narratives. So what are you to do in this new age of the new media? Well, it's getting informed and protecting yourself and your assets. We need to fight back peacefully and patriotically, and Rumble is the only platform doing just that. A company that has stood the test of time, fighting for the First Amendment, fighting to broadcast what might be unpopular, but what needs to be said online, or perhaps popular, and the other people out there, like legacy media items, don't want to talk about it. But the banks can cancel your accounts, freeze your cards, and that's why Rumble launched Rumble Wallet. So tip, again, your favorite creators right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network or any of your favorite platforms throughout the podcast sphere. With Rumble Wallet, you control your money. Not a bank, not a government, not even Rumble can crack into the Rumble Wallet. That's how secure this is. And it's yours, only yours to protect for you and your family. You can buy and save digital assets like Bitcoin and Tether Gold with this one place as well, including ownership of physical gold bars. It's not a wallet to just buy and save and treat it as if it's plastic in your pocket, but rather digital assets that are now standing the test of time. You can also visit wallet.rumble.com to get started, but download for free at Google Play or the App Store. Thank you to Rumble for partnering with us in so many different ways to bring you the right side of history. Again, wallet.rumble.com. Protect your assets, protect yourself from being canceled, especially in the digital sphere. I'd like to thank as well covepure.com/RSBN. $250 off of this amazing system. It's so convenient for many reasons, but if you're renting especially, you don't have to drill holes and risk being penalized or losing that security deposit, because this machine is, as you see it, what you see is what you get. Sitting right there, just like a coffee machine or coffee maker, very easy and out of the way on your kitchen counter or in your den. The amazing speed at which the Clearwater technology allows you to warm water, cool water, make it lukewarm, as you can see right there. Does not have you running out the door, especially if you enjoy tea. You don't have to wait for it to steep on your oven and the countertop. So instead of doing a multitude of tasks and forgetting about it, you can just do it real quick right there and get it all solved. As most people tend to go overboard buying new supplements, and it's the whole new year, new me, all of that nonsense. Now, as we come to March 9th, some of those resolutions out the window, but they forget the most basic, most important thing: pure water. Drink pure, live pure, protecting what matters most with covepure.com. Truly the one machine that's dominating the reverse osmosis systems. Clearwater technology certified to remove 99.9% of the contaminants in tap water. We're talking fluoride, pesticides, agricultural runoff, and really the nasty stuff that RFK Jr. has been fighting to tell people, suing big companies, suing big pharma, suing those that would put poisons into the water. And Republicans, Democrats, everyone, voters like you at home, we want clean air, we want clean water. So with these amazing features, you could do so much with this life-saving machine at covepure.com/RSBN. And if you remember the lead contaminated issue up in Michigan all those years ago in Flint, a terrible situation. Sometimes our local governments, they don't do their jobs, and there can be really nasty stuff like PFAS, microplastics, and contaminants in the water. So protect you, protect what matters most. covepure.com/RSBN. Take advantage of this now. Scan that QR code for $250 off of the best system in reverse osmosis technologies. And thank you for sponsoring us on the right side of history. As Mr. Producer has informed me that we have a quick clip of Secretary of State Marco Rubio really dominating on the world stage. Last time I was with you for the State of the Union on February 24th, the President acknowledging, and a very humble Marco Rubio, no one has done better in this role. He will go down as the greatest Secretary of State in history, showcasing that recently at the Saving and Broadening and Protecting Americas right there in Miami, Florida.
But the president isn't just focused on homecomings. He's also focused on ending the cycle of exploitation, of saying enough is enough, of ending the cycle in which Americans are somehow viewed as a valuable commodity that you can grab an American, you can unjustly hold them, and then try to trade them later on for some diplomatic concession or some political concession. We have to end that cycle. We have to make sure that Americans are no longer viewed as targets of opportunity around the world, and people and nation states and terroristic regimes like the one in Iran know that there are consequences for doing that. And that's why we established the state sponsor of wrongful detention designation.
Thank you to our sponsors here on the right side of history, angelpaste.com, the Miracle Cream Original that I use every day, and we have it right here on display for you. Look at that lovely bottle. It just makes you want to put this on all day, every day. Good for guys and gals. A Christian-run company. They hire veterans. They prioritize that. They're based out of Spring, Texas, in the Houston Metroplex, right off of the Gulf of America. Also an orange option filled with natural vitamin C to help with collagen and also help with the sniffles of this time of year. Cold and flu really skyrocketing through the roof as we get some warmer temperatures. Thank God, as we just jumped ahead into daylight savings time. Angelpaste.com also has a natural facial spray, amongst other great products. And when you look back on the ingredients, it's actually what you see is what you get. So that matters most when it comes to absorbing things through your skin. You don't want that fake stuff that's out there. Get the real stuff that actually makes a difference for cracked skin, dry skin, and just having that overall glow. So check out all of their products at angelpaste.com. 10% off with code RSBN today. Scan that QR code there. We're grateful for their support here on the right side of history. Did you know that ivermectin going through trials with the National Cancer Center on ivermectin? Not only is it a parasite removal, but it's looking like it could deal with those pesky cancer cells that build up in your body over the years, combating them directly. And this is not a medical solution or necessarily a direct treatment, but you should have the right to try with most favored nation status and an online pharmacy that wants you to have access to off-label generic medication, something that Big Pharma has taken us away from and something that your pharmacy at home might not even prescribe. So go to allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN with code RSBN10. That's RSBN10 for 10% off of ivermectin, albendazole, hydrochloroquine, NAD+, and much, much more. Tamiflu for cold and flu season. Also emergency medical kits that you can have stocked up with you at home or even take on the road with you for your spring break travels. Scan that QR code there right now. I'll walk you through real quick how this works. You order online and you fill out that medical form. A licensed doctor right here in the United States reviews that, sends it right back to your door. Great for convenience. Also, if you don't have insurance for whatever reason, no issue, no hassle, no red tape, no bureaucracy, just life-saving medications, 300 plus, in fact, ready to go for you at allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. 10% off, code RSBN10. Thank you for sponsoring us on the right side of history. Again, you can scan that QR code there or visit All Family Pharmacy today for all of these life-saving medications. Something so smart to do to stock up for your medicine cabinet so you're not too late in case you get sick or in case you have a serious threatening issue. As we are awaiting moments from now, the President of the United States, it's what we do here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. Our goal is ultimately to not only bring you the truth, and because we believe you, the viewer, is smart enough to make those decisions for yourself. How do you do that, though? Because as Ben Franklin and Thomas Jefferson once acknowledged, it's if you watch the media, or if you don't consume media in and of their time with the newspaper and the first screen name of sorts, Poor Richard's Almanac. Of course, that was Ben Franklin writing that, and whoever controlled the printing press really controlled the day. But if you did not consume it, you did not know what was happening. If you did consume it, you were misinformed. So even dating back to the 18th century, the dawn of the Republic 250 years ago, you had fake news out there, and you had the revolutionaries who fought for truth, justice, and the American way, as Superman has said a time or two. And with that, it's important to subscribe to the new media, the right media, the people who are on the right side of history. That's us, to bring you unbridled access to your 45th and 47th President of the United States, the 50th Vice President, and the 119th Congress. RSBN is viewer-supported by the great people like you. So help us out at rsbnnetwork.com/donate. You can also reach out to us through that Rumble wallet, wallet.rumble.com, to tip your favorite content creators. So something very smart to do, and we're grateful for that here on the right side of history. Also subscribe to RSB Network by visiting rsbnetwork.com/newsletter for all of the great written testimony, great authors at this company, not just the broadcast, but the written word on a plethora of different issues. Thank you for supporting us here on the right side of history. Also, thank you to Mike Lindell, mypillow.com/RSBN. Save with code RSBN. The mattress and topper sale as low as $99.99 plus free shipping on your entire order. We have 2,000 plus options at this great website, All American Made, and I got one right here, the My Coffee, and it smells just oh so good. I might have a cup after the show here, but that's how I start my day every morning. There's also the My Pillow 1.0 and 2.0, great to have, as well as the Giza Dream Sheets. Oh, those are lovely. So many good options. Mike Lindell wants you to have a better night's rest and an even brighter morning with those My Slippers, but right now, the big sale, the mattress and topper sale, $99.99 plus free shipping. mypillow.com/RSBN 800-836-7566. Don't delay. Call today. Once again, that number 800-836-7566. Support Mike Lindell and the right side of history as we are wishing our dear friend up in Minnesota well as he pursues the governor's mansion there in the great state of Minnesota. mypillow.com/RSBN. Thank you, Mike, for supporting us here on the right side of history. We're at 437 on the East Coast, 137 on the West Coast, and we are grateful for all of you in your neck of the woods. And with that said, it's been a while. Feedback at rsbn.tv. Feel free to write in if you wish to opine, the good, the bad, and the ugly. We read it all, and we want to know what you're thinking, whether it's something happening in your neck of the woods or something regarding the way we share the news and information, bringing you again this unbridled access, the entirety of press conferences, the entirety of speeches, analysis, opinion, editorial stances that put you, the viewer, first. After all, it was Joe Seal's vision dating back to the 2015 coming down the escalator at Trump Tower, where President Trump created this refined Make America Great Again movement, which has become more than just one person or one family, as the Trumps have given in so many different countless servant-like ways to this great country. We've also realized how big this movement is, that it's not so much Republican and Democrat, but it's we the people versus a bureaucratic nightmare, otherwise known as the deep state. And as this administration works to streamline the size and the scope of the federal government, what does it all mean for you? That's why we are here, to showcase that, to interview you, to be on the road with you in the 2026 midterms, as Right Side Broadcasting Network truly is the #1 source for political events in the United States, also your go-to live desk, also your rally network, as we continue to grow and expand in the new media. Today for you, the President of the United States headlining this Republican Members Issues Conference at the President's Club right down there in Doral, Florida, just outside of the great city of Miami, that has seen somewhat of a summer swell in the heat in the last few days as spring is racing across that finish line to get us there a little bit faster, to get out of the winter blues that seem to really have affected most of the country with crazy storms and bitterly cold temperatures. And we are somewhat fortunate in Georgia and Alabama to get away from a little bit of that compared to our neighbors in the volunteer state of Tennessee, of course, Mississippi, getting hit hard with that. And that's why, my friends, we are in election season. It's so important to be involved in so many different elections, from President of the United States that will be deciding once again in 2 years, all the way down to dog catcher. And of course, it's a play on words for your precinct committeeman, because it was the Nashville trees that went down during those terrible storms. We talked to our very own Christina Loren, who resides in the Music City, and we saw with those iced over trees how that affected the infrastructure. Why was it like that? It's because, just like in California with those fires and what happened in the Pacific Palisades, forest management, something that Governor Gavin Newsom even talked about in President Trump's first term, when you saw all of those natural firefights that took place in Northern California. Who regulates so much of that? It's county commissioners, to state affiliations, and of course, your each unique municipality. If they're not cleaning it up, if they're not sweeping it up, if they're not creating controlled burns, something I saw recently in southern Georgia, you're going to have issues. And that's why it's so important to elect people who know what they are doing, not just talking the talk, but walking the walk, as this administration attempts to clean up so much of not only the federal city, but issues not only domestically, but abroad, not only in peace deals, but now in operations and preemptive moves in order to make sure that rogue regimes like the Ayatollahs in Iran do not continue to harm not only their citizens, but American interests, as it's been all about America first and peace through strength. Again, moments from now, the president's set to headline a Members Issues Conference. If you're just joining us, I'm Robert McNeely. Great to be back with you. I was gone for a period of days, but nice and refreshed and relaxed to bring you the breaking news, not only in the Trump White House, but your Congress and everything as we unfold with many different elections coming up. We saw last week in Texas how interesting that was, that it was somewhat of an anti-incumbent wave. Congressman Dan Crenshaw losing his re-election bid to Mr. Roth. Also, Senator John Cornyn, perhaps on the proverbial chopping block, as Attorney General Ken Paxton peacefully and patriotically challenging him and forcing a runoff in that race. And President Trump asking that one of the two gentlemen ultimately drop out for a saving of money of sorts. It could cost up to $100 million potentially in a state as large as Texas and their media markets in Houston, Austin, and Dallas. Of course, the western rural areas as well, to run a campaign leading up to a primary with a challenger in the general who's not to be underestimated, someone who is really trying to lean on a leftist populist message, but we know the path that goes down. So how does this affect other races throughout the country, including tomorrow, the 14th Congressional District, which we visited back on February 19th with President Trump's rally in Rome, Georgia. Countless candidates involved in that, 18 looking to replace Marjorie Taylor Greene, and a few frontrunners in that race. We were fortunate enough to speak to one, Jim Tooley, who had his heart and mind in that race, a large district in northwest Georgia, touching all the way to close to the city of Atlanta, and Rome really being the heart of it. He has a bus like he's running a presidential campaign, and it makes sense to do so when you're covering so much land and territory. So how does that race shape out tomorrow, leading up to a St. Patrick's Day election in the prairie state of Illinois? And if you're watching some of the breaking news on the bottom of the showcase as the nicer weather takes place, although still very mild compared to the south, we will actually toss it there now to the President of the United States, the Congressional Institute down there in Doral, Florida.
Thank you all so much. Have a seat for just a moment. It is so good to be here again at Doral, President Trump's amazing property. How about a round of applause for this incredible venue? And the Congressional Institute, we're so grateful for bringing us all together as they have done for many years now. This is the best time to be together. It's the best place to be together. We have so much to celebrate. When we were here just last year, we were talking about being on the edge, on the verge of the dawn of a new golden era in America. And my friends, that is exactly what we are in the middle of now, the new golden era, new golden age. And that's because when voters gave us this mandate in the election of 2024, they wanted us to fix everything. As you know, every metric of public policy was an absolute disaster. And they gave the President of the United States, this president, 75 million popular votes. He won the Electoral College decisively, and along the way, and in large part because of his coattails, we had the largest popular vote ever in history for House Republicans, almost 75 million votes. That's right. So we came in with a mandate, and we came in with an agenda, and we began to work very hard. We worked hand in hand with the president to move that agenda along, the America First agenda. And the record of the first year of the Trump administration in the last couple of months has been promises made, promises kept, because we take the responsibility that we have been given by the people seriously. It's a restoration of common sense. We are bringing America back again, and it's largely because of the leadership of the gentleman that I'll introduce to you in a moment. He is the most active president, the most energized president, the most successful president, I believe, in my lifetime, and he's proven it over and over and over. And part of it is because he doesn't sleep, thankfully. He's got so much to do. And I know that because I get calls from him at 2 a.m. and 7 a.m., sometimes in the same day. He doesn't require a lot of sleep, thankfully, and he is the man for the moment. His achievements are incalculable. History will record that this president came at exactly the right time, on the eve of the 250th anniversary of the greatest nation in the history of the world, the most free, most successful, most powerful, most benevolent nation that has ever been. And we understand, and he understands, that it's not guaranteed. He understands that we have to fight for it every single day, and he does that every single day. Just in the last week, my friends, anytime this president sees a problem, he jumps right in to fix it. I've been involved in just what I've been involved in the last few days with him. Several days back, earlier in the week, he recognized that the growth of AI and the new tech and the need for data centers around the country and new energy sources. He pulled together all the leaders in the industry. He's the only person that has the gravitas to be able to do that. And he pulled them all together, and they signed the Ratepayer Protection Pledge to make sure that energy prices continue to go down and don't rise, even though the demand, that's right, it's a big thing. And then a couple of days later, we're working hard in the House, and the House leadership team's doing all of our thing, and I get summoned back to the White House. What is it now? Well, the president needs to save colleges and universities. The NIL, the name, image, and likeness madness has really gotten out of control, and the president's decided that he's the man to fix it, and he is. And so he summoned us all together, and I mean, you probably saw 60 of the biggest names in college sports and athletics and college administration, university administration, all summoned to the White House for a productive meeting to get the SCORE Act and our solutions done and finished up. A few days later, I turn on the TV. You know, I'm trying to rest a little bit. The president doesn't. Why? Because now he's back down here in South Florida, and he has brought together and created the New Hemisphere initiative to take out narco-terrorists and secure the hemisphere. This security for the Americas. It's a new initiative that he alone has conceived. This president never stops. There's so much to fix. We have the right man for this hour. History will record one of the most consequential presidencies in the history of this extraordinary country. We are all blessed to be a part of it, to work alongside him in the legislative branch and to get this done for America. We will continue to do that as we head in to the most important midterm election of our lifetimes. We all know that. Without further ado, my friends, I want to present to you not just our host and the property owner, but the 45th and the 47th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump.
From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston and New York to LA, where there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say that I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free, and I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me, and I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free, and I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me, and I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA.
A lot of friends. Sit down. We have a little time. Just everybody. Thank you very much. And to our great speaker, Speaker Johnson. And hello to the men and women of one of the most consequential Republican majorities in history. It's not a big majority, but it's just about the most consequential. The job you've done is incredible. And they are members that are warriors and really people that are for the American people, and that's why you're doing well, and I think that's why we're going to continue to do well. We're fighting a little tradition, you know, historically the person that wins, Democrat or Republican, wins the presidency. For whatever reason, it doesn't work out, but we've done it a lot. I don't know, I think we had the best first year of any president ever, and that includes you. You came along with me, and you made it happen. So with your help and hard work, we're making America great again, and we're doing it much faster than we thought, and it's better, stronger, and our country is doing really well. I mean, at a level that nobody thought. We took a little excursion because we felt we had to do that to get rid of some evil, and I think you'll see it's going to be a short-term excursion. How good is our military, right? Amazing. How good. Short term. Short term. Thank you. They're great. You know, we all together, in my first term, we rebuilt our military. And I didn't know I'd be using it so much in the second term, but we have a military like no other. It's not even close. But I especially want to recognize the rest of our amazing House Republican leadership team and so many of my friends that are congressmen, some senators. We have some great people in this room, but including Majority Leader, a real brave guy, because I know the real story. I was there that night with him in the hospital when he was given a very small chance of living by a doctor who was very good, by a wife who was desperately in love with him. She cried so much. Because I've seen the other two. I've seen guys at the end of the line, the wives aren't exactly shaken up. When they don't cry, when they have no tears or any sign of tears, this is not a good sign of a great marriage. But he must have a great marriage, because she was just devastated. She was going to lose her guy. But it worked out that the doctor said more blood was put into him than he's ever seen. He was in big trouble. I looked at him that night and I said goodbye to him, but he made it. He was brave, and look at the way he fought back from so many different things. Steve Scalise. And we have another one, Tom Emmer, who I really got to know over the last few years, and I'll tell you, he's a winner. He's a champion with another great wife. We got good wives up in there. Let's say great wife, fine husband. But Tom is just a real champion and a winner, and you have a problem, you go to him, he gets it solved. So thank you very much. Great job. You've done a great job. And our conference chairwoman is Lisa McLean, and we all know Lisa. Don't get on her wrong side. It can be a very, very bad experience. Thank you very much. Great job, Lisa. Great job. And a very special thanks. You know, you broke a record. This is over 20 million. This is it's the biggest of these type of events that there's ever been by a lot. You know, you didn't just break it, you broke it by a lot. So I want to congratulate you. But there's just great spirit. The Republican Party has fantastic spirit. The level, I don't think, has been seen before. I really don't. We have to get a couple of people on board, which in at least one case is virtually impossible. I wonder who that might be. A sick person. But I want to say a very special thanks to everyone at the Congressional Institute for helping organize this event. This has been amazing. And over the past 9 days, we've been reminded of how vital our Republican majorities are. And it's America's future. We're really fighting because these people, you saw the other night at the State of the Union, you saw these people. They wouldn't stand for a mother who just lost her daughter by having her throat slit from behind. They wouldn't stand for a helicopter pilot who just got the Congressional Medal of Honor for landing safely in Venezuela, a helicopter with a lot of soldiers on that helicopter. And he was able to land it safely, and his leg was practically ripped off. And for those people that know about helicopters, you land them pretty much with your legs, right, Tom? You land them with the legs, and he was in bad shape, and he got that. Not only landed, he landed in exactly the right spot at exactly as blood was pouring down the aisle, which didn't make all of those soldiers in the back feel too good. They're looking at a pilot who's bleeding out. But they didn't want to stand for that. They didn't want to stand for a 100-year-old soldier who had left a legacy of bravery. Everybody talked about it for years, and it was time for him to get the Congressional Medal of Honor. They didn't want to stand for him. There's something wrong with those people, and we can't let them ever be in a position where they can lead this country again or destroy this country again, because we almost lost this country. This country was close to being lost. The representatives in this room provided the pivotal votes in securing a record $1 trillion for the United States military this year, and now the world is witnessing the importance of that investment with one of the most complex and stunning operations ever conducted, and that's Operation Epic Fury. That's a great name, isn't it? Epic Fury. That's even better than Midnight Hammer, which was pretty good too, right? That was where we knocked out their nuclear potential. That was a big day, because if we didn't do that, they would have had a nuclear weapon within 2 weeks. And I think we'd be in a lot different situation. And then you had, of course, what they did in Venezuela, how that was just so far so good. We've done a real job. We've got all good ones. If you go back and you look at Afghanistan with Biden, one of the worst, I think the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. If you look at what happened with Jimmy Carter, also with Iran, but if you look at what happened with the helicopters and the hostages, it cost them the election. It was what a mess. The world respects us right now more than they have ever respected us before. Believe that. And because of Republicans, you people in Congress, the United States has by far the strongest and most powerful military on the face of the earth. We're the strongest military anywhere in the earth, and now everybody understands it. Together with our Israeli partners, we're crushing the enemy in an overwhelming display of technical skill and military force. Iran's drone and missile capability is being utterly demolished. The Navy is gone. It's all lying at the bottom of the ocean. 46 ships. Can you believe it? In fact, I got a little upset with our people. I said, what quality of ship? Excellent, sir. Top of the line. I said, why did we just capture the ship? We could have used it. Why did we sink them? They said, it's more fun to sink them. I said, they like sinking them better. They say it's safer to sink them. I guess it's probably true. But think of it, we knocked out 46, and actually took 3.5 days. Their terrorist leaders are gone. We're counting down the minutes until they will be gone. Think of it, we had leaders, and they're gone. Then we had new leaders, and they're gone. And now nobody has any idea who the people are that are going to be the head of the country, and will not relent until the enemy is totally and decisively defeated. And remember, Iran did so many bad things. They were really, if you look at Soleimani, who was taken out, as you know that, but you know who. But if you look at Soleimani, the father of the roadside, you call it a roadside bomb because most people don't understand the different terms. It was where they plant bombs in roads. As you drive by, happily drive by, the bomb goes off, and no matter how strong the armament, it just kills the people. Or you lose your arms, legs, and face. And those bombs got worse and worse, and he got happier and happier, and we took him out. That was a big thing because he was the head. It might have been a much different story. They may have been much more capable than they are had he lived, because he was capable. He was vicious, violent, and capable. But we got rid of him first term. And we did so many things. I mean, we've done so many things, but as you know, on Saturday, I traveled to Dover Air Force Base to be with the families of 6 fallen warriors as they returned to American soil. And I know that everyone in this room joins me in sending our prayers and eternal gratitude to the families of those great heroes. Those families are incredible families. Devastating to be. Hardest thing to do. You know, I've done it a lot. The hardest thing to do is to go to Dover, because Dover is where, for the most part, a lot of the fallen, the warriors, the great young people that have died in war, they seem to mostly go to Dover. They come home to Dover. Dover does a great job of handling things. They have men assigned to the family. They have men and women that are incredible, assigned to the families. It's a beautiful thing, but it's also a very sad thing. But they all said one thing to me: make sure you win, sir. Make sure you win. They weren't playing games. They want to make sure. They said it. Everybody said it. They were separate, but everybody said the same thing: make sure you win. We will. We've already won in many ways, but we haven't won enough. We go forward more determined than ever to achieve ultimate victory that will end this long-running danger once and for all. 47 years. It should have been done a long time ago. The world would have been a different place had some president had the courage to go and do it. They should have done it many, many times. They had many opportunities. The United States of America is the greatest and most exceptional nation in human history and will not be threatened by evil terrorists and lunatics any longer. We just can't do that. And, you know, when I always talk about how great our nation is, I don't know. I don't consider our nation very great for 4 years under Biden. We were a laughingstock all over the world. We were a laughingstock. So, you know, I say great, 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 but I don't know. When you look at what happened with so many different things, the open border, 25 million people, many of them very bad people pouring into our country with open borders that just said, come on in, makes no difference. They emptied their jails into our country. 11,888 murders, 50% of which murdered more than one person. The drug dealers came in, the mentally insane came in, they emptied their mental institutions, they emptied their insane asylum. That's a step above a mental institution. They emptied them all right into our country, and we've done a great job of doing what we've done. Think of it, we have the lowest crime rate that we've ever had. We have the lowest murder rate in 125 years, and we're saddled with all of the problems of the criminals that were let in. You know, look, they're smart people. I know the people that run those countries, every one of them, and they're all streetwise, very smart, and I would do exactly the same thing. They emptied their jails into our country. I said that was going to happen when I heard that they were having open borders. I didn't believe that they were going to have it. When I realized that they actually were going to have open borders, I said, we're going to have every person in jail. We're going to have every drug dealer. We're going to have all these countries all over the world. The Congo, they emptied their jails all the way from the Congo to all parts of South America, Asia. They sent in their people in jail, murderers. Some of the worst people on earth got sent into our country. And I'll tell you what, ICE is unbelievable, what they have to put up with and how tough they have to be. That goes for Border Patrol, and it goes for law enforcement, our law enforcement people. But sadly, even as our service members are fighting bravely to protect America abroad, the Democrat minority in Congress is deliberately sabotaging our national security at home. And you're going through it right now, fellas. I mean, you're going through, it's not even believable. You know, we should be very safe right now, especially when we're attacking somebody that's evil, bad intention. But last week, 53 House Democrats voted against a resolution affirming that Iran remains the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Who the hell would do that? I mean, almost every act, whether it's Hamas or Hezbollah, no matter what, you take a look, it's Iran or Iran sponsored. And even more outrageously, as we speak, Democrats have shut down the Department of Homeland Security. They've got it shut down. Do you believe it? Right now. Because they care more about amnesty for illegal alien criminals than about protecting the lives of American citizens. I mean, take a look at it. The American citizen is being scoffed at by Democrats. It doesn't make sense. None of this stuff makes sense to me, you know, when they sat and they wouldn't stand up for incredible people. They just refused to clap, stand up. By the end of the speech, by the way, they were all standing because somebody was passing them. No, you people are getting killed tonight. They were all, they'd stand up for everything I was saying. At the end, that last half hour, they were standing up for things that they shouldn't have stood up for because they got the word, you're getting killed tonight. Stand up and clap for the woman that just lost her daughter, please, to a violent criminal. But Democrats must vote immediately to reopen the Department of Homeland Security so that we have the resources to keep America safe. And under our pro-America, pro-worker, pro-family agenda, our country is winning again and America is respected again. And I think we have a country that's as hot as it's ever been, ever before, maybe hotter. And I say it all the time. The king of Saudi Arabia said it to me better than anybody could say it. He said, you know, I get along with him very well, very smart person. He said, you know, a year and a half ago, your country was dead, absolutely dead. We never thought it was coming back. And now you have the hottest country anywhere in the world. It's true. We're the hottest country anywhere in the world by far. And that's before we showed off our military strength with Venezuela and now with Iran. You know, Iran was supposed to be this big, powerful country. We wrapped the hell out of them. And, you know, I don't know when they cry uncle, but they should have cried it 2 days ago, right? But they don't have anything left. In our country, inflation is plummeting. Incomes are rising. The economy is surging. Our border is the most secure at any time in American history. And the murder rate is the lowest in 125 years. That's before my father was born. My father was born 6 years later than that. I don't know if he'd like me to say that. Never liked to talk about his age. He said, don't talk about that. But think about 125 years ago, 1900, the year 1900. The stock market has set 53 all-time record highs since the election. And it's going to go a lot higher as soon as we get rid of this stuff that we're doing right now, that we really had no choice. I mean, I think I asked people, I said, would you rather do this or would you rather go along nice and smoothly, but eventually have a catastrophe the likes of which perhaps the world has never seen? And just about everybody says, except for lunatics, said, no, you had to get it done. Should have been done a long time ago. The average 401k is up almost $35,000. Think of that. It's at the best they've ever done. And I think you're going to see some real numbers when this gets, because this was always a dark cloud hanging over not only Israel, which was going to get wiped out. You know, if we didn't do that B-2 attack, Israel would have been wiped out. They would have had a nuclear weapon within 2 weeks after that. And even now, I think they were looking to take over the Middle East, because when you look, and we have pretty good proof, all of those missiles that were so stupidly aimed at Qatar, Saudi Arabia, UAE, they were all aimed, and others, at countries that were sort of like, leave us alone. They were all right. They were sort of neutral, but they weren't doing it. All of a sudden, they're getting hit with missiles. And they could have gone one of two ways. They could have gone toward their side, like we're with you, or they could have gone with our side, and they really went with our side, and they've helped us, and they've been a big force. But they got hit. But they were going to be hit with us. Had we not done the B-2 raid, and if we not done this one where we said, nope, it's time to go in, we have to go in, have no choice. Number one, if we didn't go in, they would have come in after us, because I see the Democrats trying to justify it, and they're failing because the voter on the street is saying, you got to be kidding. But I see where they're going, where they're always saying, no, there was no reason. Well, I'll give you the best reason of all. Within a week, they were going to attack us 100%. They were ready. They had all these missiles, far more than anyone thought. And they were going to attack us. But they were going to attack all of the Middle East and Israel. And if they had a nuclear weapon, they would have used it on Israel. And this was going to be a major attack. And they had all of those missile sites and all those launchers that we got rid of, about 80% of them right now, by the way. Got rid of most of the, see, it's died down to a trickle. They have very few launchers left. What our military has done is amazing. They wiped out almost 20%, maybe 22, 23%, but the rest are going very quickly. And the missiles have been largely knocked out. The drones have been knocked down, and we're hitting where they make the drones. We know them all, and we're knocking the hell out of that now where they manufacture the drones. A lot of work, a lot of brilliant work, but we're going to have a much safer world as soon as it's finished, and it's going to be finished pretty quickly. With the help of our House Republican majority, we passed the largest tax cuts in American history, and we have to be talking about it. And with the great, big, beautiful bill, we delivered no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security for our great seniors. And we did something else which is great that nobody ever talks about, Tom, and we have to talk about it. We made interest on auto loans fully deductible. That's never happened. We've never had that. Rich people always get deductions, but middle-income people, people that have to struggle a little bit, never did. But now they can deduct the interest paid against their taxes. We have one little proviso, and I put this on, it's very important, only if the car is made in America, all right? That's going to have a huge impact. That's going to have a huge impact. We passed the Trump accounts to give every child in America a head start on the American dream, and that's so good. It was, I'll tell you, the Dell family, Dell computer, put up $6,250,000,000. Think of it. He started with very little, nothing, very, very little. Started making computers on his bed. And he said, yeah, people started liking them better than the ones from the store. And he never stopped. And he can write a check for $6,250,000,000. He said, and his incredible wife, Susan, they said that's the best thing they've ever done. He's so proud. He's going to do it again. Going to do more. And we have a lot of other people. A lot of very rich people are doing it. A lot of people that aren't so rich are doing it. They're doing it for their kids, but it's turning out. So a young child turns 18 or 21, and all of a sudden they have $100,000 in the bank. What a difference that is between having that and having nothing. And it could be more than that. It could be a lot more depending on what happens with the world. And we passed 100% expensing and bonus depreciation on all new equipment, factory construction and investments, and that's what made our first term. We had the greatest economy in the history of our country in the first term, and this one's going to blow it away. Again, we had a little pause, but it's not a very big pause. With your help, we also passed the largest regulation cuts in American history, ending the Green New Scam, one of the greatest scams in history, and massively increasing production of American oil, natural gas, and clean, beautiful coal. We brought coal back. You're not allowed to say coal without clean, beautiful. Got to be clean, beautiful. China uses coal. They're building about 65 massive coal plants right now. But China, great respect for China, but you know, they make all the windmills, right? The only thing they don't do is use the windmills. They make them. But try finding wind farms in China. There aren't too many of them. In my State of the Union address, I laid out an ambitious agenda that should be our roadmap this year, and it's starting with lowering the cost of living. You know, they gave us a mess. We inherited a mess, an absolute mess. And the mess was many things. They were bad with our military. They were bad with everything. I mean, I said, name one thing that they did right. They can't name one thing. But they also gave us very high prices. And then they said the word affordability. That's the first time I ever heard it. They said affordability. My first day in office, they said affordability. They're the ones that caused the problem, but we're really bringing down prices big. Do you notice you don't hear that word anymore, Mike? They don't say it anymore because we brought down prices so much. So our message is simple. Democrats created the high prices, and our policies are totally ending them, and they're ended, and we're doing better. We're even bringing them down further. They'll be way down, and we're bringing, you know, if you go back into the last period, I would say, I think it's 2.5 months, 1.7% inflation. 3 months, 1.45% inflation. Think of that. Whereas they had the highest inflation in the history, the single highest inflation in the history of our country. Now, you know, I always say this. They say 48 years because I don't want the fake news to get me on this. They say it wasn't history, it was 48 years that the inflation was the highest in 48 years. But I don't know, in some ways 48 years sounds even worse because it's very specific. You know? But they had the highest inflation probably in history, but in 48 years, we inherited that. One of the first targets must be the crushing healthcare. We have to crush and take over the healthcare situation, which we can do. For the first time, we can do it since the passage of the Unaffordable Care Act. Big insurance companies have gotten rich. They've made money like practically no other companies have made, with our government giving them hundreds of billions of dollars, and their stock prices soaring to up to 1,700%, 1,000%, 1,200%, 1,600%, and even 1,700%. The government gave them essentially trillions of dollars. And I want that money to be paid to the person, not to the insurance company, and let them go out and buy their own health care. And people love it. People love it. You'll get better health care at a much lower cost, and they'll be sort of part of the system. But the money we spend is so much. We spend numbers that nobody could even believe. But the healthcare companies, because the Democrats are owned by the insurance companies, remember that. And so they have a problem. That's why it's hard to get it fixed, because they are totally owned and controlled by the healthcare, by the insurance companies. Healthcare insurance, but the insurance companies themselves. So when you want to do something that's good for the people but bad for the insurance companies, it's very, very hard for them to go in a different way. Now, Republicans never do that kind of thing, right? You're owned by nobody, right? Nobody. See, a young girl up here say yes. Some of them are a little bit shaky, but they're Republicans. We love them. We love them anyway, right, Mike? But they are owned by those big, powerful insurance companies that are making a fortune, and it's hard to get them to do the right thing. They know what the right thing is. So we want the money to be paid directly to the people and let the people go out and buy their own health care, and people love it. They love it. We can own the issue. For the first time ever, Republicans can own that issue. I'm also asking you to take swift action to codify my most favored nation policy on drug prices, the biggest. That alone should win the midterms. We have, and I tell this story all the time, my first term, third year, I actually had a slight, it was 0.25% decline in drug price. First time in 28 years. I was so proud. I went home, told our great First Lady, who's now a movie star, I got the biggest, can you believe this? That movie was hot, and it is hot. She became a movie star. It was a good movie. But I went home and I said, you know, it's amazing. We do so well. We work so hard. This issue is the single biggest issue. Okay. I had a news conference, I'm embarrassed to say, a long time ago, my first term, third year, because I went up to a level that I did things that nobody's ever done. 28 years, I brought it down 0.25%. Now I brought it down 80%, 90%, 75%, depending the way it's driving the fake news crazy, because I say 400%, 500%, 600, depending on the way you want to talk about it, if you want to talk about pricing. But using a conservative number, what we've done is we paid the highest price for drugs anywhere in the world, and now we pay the lowest price for drugs anywhere in the world. We are tied for the lowest price. Whoever has the lowest price, that's what we pay. And I did that through tariffs. We had a little disappointing decision, to put it mildly, from the Supreme Court. Terrible decision for the people, but the good news is I have lots of other ways of doing the same thing. I just have to work a little harder. They want me to work harder, but we're doing the same thing with a lot of work. But I used tariffs to get this because I went to other countries. The drug companies were not easy, but I got them. And I said, we're not paying. We were paying for a pill $130 that in London and Germany and different places you'd pay $10. So we were paying 13 times more. They're paying $10, we're paying $130. And the drug companies, I called them in. We had a rough time, but it wasn't that bad. And they agreed because they knew that I couldn't get the countries. You had to get the countries to approve it. And I called up, and you've heard me say this a couple of times, not often, but I called the countries up. I called up France. I said, Emmanuel, you have to cut your good friends from America a reasonable deal. What's happening is you are paying a tiny fraction for drugs. No, Donald, I cannot do anything about that. I said, you can. He said, no, I will not do it. I will not do it. Because he'd have to raise his pill from $10 to $20 and maybe even $30. Ours would come down from $13, $130 down to $20. Think of that. From $130, that's what you're going to get. From $130 to $20. But he has to double his price from $10, and they were the boss. I said, no, you will. No, Donald, I cannot do that. And I heard this from all the other countries too, very elegant people. And they were saying, no, we cannot do this. We will not do this. I said, yes, you will, 100%. No, we will not. Because, they have to double up their prices. And I said, well, here's the story. If you don't do it, I'm going to put, in the case of Emmanuel, I said a 100% tariff on all wines and champagnes coming into the United States. No, Donald, you cannot do that. I said, I've already got the legislation. It's right in front of my desk. I'm going to sign it. Emmanuel, he said, Donald, I will agree to this. So he agreed. Everybody agreed. I got every country to agree. And now you've done something that no other president could have done. No, I don't want to brag. But, you know, they've said this about a lot of things. No other president could do some of this shit I'm doing. No other president. The things I'm doing, nobody else was going to do it. They say it all the time, sir, could you do this? You're the only one can do it. But we got it done, and we got the countries to all go along. Because I said, if you don't do it, I'm going to raise your tariffs to 200%, to 150%, and that's 10 times more than I'm asking for. And every single one, if it took me 5 minutes, that was like a long time. I was doing badly with that one. So now we have most favored nation pricing into permanent law, and you should codify it. But I don't care that much about codifying it, because what politician is going to agree to increase drug prices by 500%, okay? So, but it's still good to have it codified. Don't you agree? You know, they're saying, sir, we have to codify it. I said, that's okay, but I'm not. Other things you should codify. That I can tell you. This one, you should codify, because you want to take credit for it. You want to take credit for it. So if you can, please codify it. Get out there and codify. You're getting an 80%, 85%, 55%, 70% reduction in drug prices. Codify it. But if you don't, no president's going to raise it, in my opinion. Although they are crazy, you know, these people are crazy. They could find a way. You better get it codified. And as we work to bring down interest rates so that more Americans afford a house, I'm also asking you to ban the Wall Street firms, large Wall Street firms, institutional investors from buying up thousands and thousands of single-family homes, hundreds of thousands of homes, because homes really are for people, not for hedge funds. We want to get the market out so they can do it, and we're stopping it. We want people to be able to buy a house. It's the American dream. Buying a house is a part of the American dream. And we must also stand up for the safety of our citizens. One of my guests at the State of the Union was Anya Zarutska, the mother of beautiful 23-year-old Ukrainian girl who was stabbed to death on a train in North Carolina by a deranged criminal, arrested more than a dozen times. And I had the mother, as you know, at the State of the Union, and she was devastated. Beautiful woman, devastated. Uncontrollably devastated. And we couldn't get one Democrat to even clap. The Republicans clapped and went wild, and they loved her. Not one Democrat in that whole room even thought about clapping. They sat there frozen-faced. Disgusting. House Republicans should get every member of Congress on record and pass a tough new crime bill that imposes harsh penalties for dangerous repeat offenders, which this nut was, cracks down on rogue judges and prosecutors, and ends no cash bail once and for all. No cash bail is a big part. I mean, you have a man murder somebody, and by that afternoon, he's out on bail. No cash bail. It's a huge problem. We also need to end deadly sanctuary cities, and you have bills before you now, and you're working on things, but hopefully you can do that, Mike, because it's terrible. They're sanctuary for criminals. That's all they are, sanctuary for criminals. They fight ICE all the time. That was the problem up in Minnesota. They had a lot of criminals in there. They wouldn't give it to us. And to stop illegal aliens who cannot even speak English from driving 18-wheel tractor trailers. They have no idea what they're reading. I wouldn't be able to do it in their countries. There's arrows, there's speed limits. They have no idea what they're reading. And in many cases, they're on drugs on top of that. We need to ban any state from granting commercial driver's licenses to illegal aliens. Have to do it. And I want to thank House Republicans for passing another common sense measure. I would think it's the easiest thing. I just told Mike. You know, you were at $19 million. I have to say this because I've never contributed. I was a huge contributor for years and years. Once I became president, I never contributed any money because the greatest thing about being president is I no longer have to contribute. Nobody ever asked me for money. They asked me for my endorsement. I've endorsed just about everybody in the room. But keep winning, right? Yeah. 124-0 this Tuesday. 124 wins, no losses. Is that good? And there were some rebels. We endorsed a few rebels, right? A few that Mike was saying, it's going to be a tough one. But we're 124-0. But as president, nobody ever asked me for money. And as president, you know, like as president, you sort of don't make campaign contributions. Right? Doesn't even. But I heard you were at $19 million today. I said, has that ever been done? No, sir, it's a record. But 20 would sound better, right, Mike? Yes. He said, I'm going to give you $1 million. It's the first time I've done it. I never did it before. I never did it before. I never did it before. Now I'll be hit up by every political group, every Republican running. Sir, could I have some, give me a little cash. I'll have Emmer come up to me and say, how about a little cash for my campaign? I will no longer have the excuse that as president, anyway, no, but we had to hit the 20, right? We had to hit the 20. That was a hell of a thing. You beat it by a lot. You beat the record, the previous record by a lot. But I want to thank House Republicans for passing another common sense measure, to me the easiest of all, the Save America Act, to protect our sacred American. Look at this. Look. It's the easiest thing we have. I can't, it's the easiest thing we have. Now, the problem is you call it the SAVE Act, and nobody knew what the hell the SAVE Act. Have you been seeing, I've been working overtime the last month. It's called the, capital the Save America Act. And I saw Schumer yesterday, we will stop Save America. He's getting killed. They can't do it. And then the things within the Save America are so good. But just the title. So we had that with MAGA. Greatest name of all time. Make America Great Again. MAGA. It just worked. You know, I had something, Keep America Great. It was good, but it didn't have that MAGA. You know, there was nothing you could see. I had CAG. And CAG, I said, you know, no longer, that's not good. But MAGA is great, and we'll always respect MAGA. We love MAGA. We're never going to let you down with MAGA. But this one's even better if you think about it. This says, America. We're going to save America. The Save America. How can they fight us? The Save America Act. And I've watched them. I watched Schumer, who's horrible. What a horrible politician. He is now a Palestinian officially. He is registered as a Palestinian. He's taken the biggest turn of any human being I've ever seen. He's gone from totally pro-Israel to totally pro-Palestinian. He wants to protect the Iranian people that are quite nasty. But it's very simple. All voters must show the act. Voter ID. Ready? This is not complicated. Voter identification. Now, I have a whole list, but I don't want to put, I have like hundreds of things on the list. If you go shopping, if you do this, if you buy a car, if you license a car, if you point to everything you need to have identification. So all voters have to show identification, ID. All voters must show proof of citizenship in order to vote. So you have ID and you have citizenship. So far, good. No mail-in ballots except for illness, disability, military, or travel. Mail-in ballots are a disaster. Jimmy Carter, the best thing he ever did, he headed a commission after he was president. It was the single best thing, and he did a thing on mail-in ballots. He said mail-in ballots should not be allowed because they are inherently dishonest. And we have seen it time and time again, and we just keep going with it. And I put that down as a top 3. Look, no mail-in. Now, you have the exceptions for the military, and I would even say foreign-based military. But for the military, for disability, for illness, And if you're traveling, you have an excuse. And I was lenient on that. But those three things. Then I added two more. These are best of, best of. These are called best of Trump. We should also add on to this bill. And so what I've asked Mike to do is to draw a new one with these few things added. And let's go for the gold. Let's not just get one like voter ID, but, it can be given to you by your daughter. Your daughter, she has to be of age, like above 6 years old, she's allowed to say. You had to see some of this stuff is so bad. They're doing everything possible because they know if we get this, they probably won't win an election for 50 years, okay? And maybe longer. And they're going to fight like hell. But boy, do they get killed. Because even the Democrats, you saw the numbers today, Democrats voted 86% that this stuff should be passed. The Democrats. With Republicans, you're at 98%. But Democrats are at 86, except for the people that run the Democrat Party, because they want to try and win elections illegally. It's the only reason you vote against voter ID is because you want to cheat. There's no other reason. They come up with reasons. They say, it's racist. That's their number one, racist. Then you have to explain it, and they're just sitting there mumbling. They can't explain it. And it's actually very insulting when they use the term racist. Very insulting to the people that they're trying to so-called defend, but they're not defending. Then I wanted to add two more to it because they're, I say 95%, maybe 100%. No men in women's sports, very simple. Add that in. And I wanted to add in one other, I'm not even adding in no open borders because, there's some people that like open borders. These people are crazy, but that's okay. Because I want 5 things that are like close to 100%. No transgender mutilation surgery for our children. You can't have transgender for our children. So those 5 things. 5 things. Voter ID, citizenship, mail-in ballots, no mail-in ballots. Right? We don't want men playing in women's sports. That's got to be about close to 100%. We don't want men playing in women's sports and no transgender mutilation of our children. Now, that should be the easiest thing to get past that you've ever had. Each one, it's best of Trump. Those are best of Trump. I have some that are very popular, but I wouldn't put them in that category. This is the number one priority. It should be for the House. And I'd like to ask Tom, Steve, Mike, all of you, if you would, I'd like to have you go back and Lisa, hello, darling. She was screaming her affirmation of what I said. The kid went wild. She was so happy that somebody finally said, let's vote on this. Lisa, you're going to get it done. Okay, I'm going to count on you. Forget the men up here. I'm going to count. Deal. But it's actually a matter in a serious way of national survival. We can't have these elections going on like this anymore. You use paper ballots. If right now they have watermark, it's so safe, it's so good. You put it gets under a light. It says, a code. It's very, very hard to cheat. Another thing, and I don't even bring this up, it costs 7% the cost of those crazy machines. I love the machines where they get the machines, they spend all this money, and they announce during the election that the tabulation will go along for another 3 weeks. Right? With mail-in voting, there's not a country in the world that does mail-in ballots anymore. They tried it. France tried it. It failed. They go to paper ballots. They're all doing paper ballots right now. Most of them are doing paper ballots, except us. And nobody is doing what we're doing. And there's no elections so corrupt as the elections in the United States of America. And we can solve them with this. And the reason I put those other 2 that have not much to do with it is because they are equally popular. And I think it might help us. And for those people that like Pfizer, I said maybe you put them together because a lot of people feel very strongly about Pfizer. Some people don't, but the people that want it, they really want it. And generally, for whatever reason, they're opposed to what we're saying about, about the ballots and about citizenship and all of those things. And so put them together and you might get a vote, but we have to get it done. And then we have to get the Senate to do it. But if you could send a bill up to the Senate, we're going for the gold. We don't want what was said. The SAVE Act, it was all right. Nobody knew what the hell it was, including me. I kept saying, what's this? Save America Act. Don't ever say SAVE Act again. It's a loser. The SAVE Act. Nobody has any idea what are we trying to save? It's the Save America Act. If you could send it up in full form, meaning just straight, I think the Senate has to approve it. I really do. I think, and they're going to have to go to the filibuster, and maybe it's going to be the talking filibuster like the old days. The great Jimmy Stewart, right? Remember the great movie, Jimmy Stewart? But they have to get it done, because if we don't get this done, if it takes you 6 months, I'm for not approving anything. I don't think we should approve anything until this is approved. And they can't win politically. Look, you have them in a corner, and they're listening to every word I'm saying, and it doesn't matter, because they can't win it politically. Because when they say, we don't want voter identification, we don't want proof of citizenship, all these things are just losers for them. And they won't be able to withstand it. Just like at the State of the Union, they started clapping at the end. I said that. And the reason, because politically, you have to stand for these great people that were being. And the word came out from people watching it on television, you guys are getting killed. And this is an even bigger example. So if I could ask the people in this room to go for the gold. We're going for the gold. We're not going for the bronze. We're not going to sign a watered-down version like has been sent up there. Let's go for the gold, and let's just not accept anything else. I'll tell you what, I'm willing to just sort of say I'm not going to sign anything until this is approved. I really am. That's how bad it is. And we're going to have to push the Senate, because you have 4 or 5 senators that are, 4 or 5 Republican senators. You'll have to explain them to me, but we're not going to get into that. But we're going to push them to get it done, because I don't think you can politically exist if you're not going to do voter ID and these things. I don't think the people in this country will stand for it. So I'm making my biggest plea tonight. It'll make you, and I'm not doing it for this reason at all, it'll guarantee the midterms. It'll guarantee the midterms. If you don't get it, big trouble, my opinion. If you get this, your midterms, and they know it. For 2 reasons. Number 1, they won't be able to cheat. And number 2, the people are demanding it. Every time I go out, Save America, sir, Save America Act. We want the Save America Act, sir. That's all they talk about. They don't talk about housing. They don't talk about anything. That's what they talk about. And if you send it up there, you're going to win the midterms at levels that you can't even believe. And you're going to win every election for a long time until somebody really screws things up, and hopefully that won't happen. But I've never been more confident that if we keep these promises and deliver on this popular agenda, the American people will stand with us in overwhelming numbers, just as they did in 2024. I heard Mike say it's actually 78 million votes, but it was actually 86. You know, they cheated like hell, but it was too big to rig. Remember? I won 3 times. First time was great. Second time, they cheated like hell. It was COVID. And their cheating was at an inspirational level. We can't let that ever happen again. And then they cheated again in the last election, but I went up. The term I used most was too big to rig. You got to go out. Don't believe, because we had polls having us way up. I said, don't believe the polls. Go out and vote. Make it too big to rig. And that's what happened. A couple of races they cheated on, they got away with it. A couple of Senate races, my opinion. But we have to make it too big to rig, and that's what we did. But we shouldn't have to win an election that way. You're going to have a hard time winning elections that way. So you got to get that passed. And if we fight, we will win, and we will make our country safer and stronger and richer and greater than it ever has been before. And I want to say, very importantly, because they would like you not to say this, because this is a terrible thing in their opinion to say, God bless you and God bless America. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much.
And President Trump there at Trump National Doral in Miami, Florida, with the Congressional Institute Republican House leadership there from Michigan, Minnesota, and the great state of Louisiana. Of course, our House Speaker, Mike Johnson, Steve Scalise as the majority leader, Whip Emmer, and leading the conference there. Just an amazing job by countless congressmen. A very narrow majority, 218 and 213 right now. Of course, Lisa McClain there from the Wolverine State, and some senators in the House as well as they get ready to head back to Washington. President Trump making his congressional agenda very clear, passing the Save America Act. It's common sense, 88% or more Republicans, Democrats, independents, nonpartisan, non-affiliates wanting this common sense legislation. When you present voter ID, when you present proof of citizenship, take non-citizens off of the rolls. In addition to that, have a reason for mail-in balloting. It leads to safe, secure elections and a congressional or a constitutional republic that people aren't asking the results of the election and happy regardless of the outcome. So the common sense legislation to pass, and that in its cleanest form should be right on the table there. And as the president mentioned, the House passing this, perhaps in a new form in coming weeks, the Senate will likely have no choice but to implement some form of the filibuster, referring back to Jimmy Stewart's role as Mr. Smith, who headed over to Washington, D.C. But we're seeing pure American dominance, and President Trump sharing on Truth Social with cut number 11, and an analogy with baseball as the World Baseball Classic underway. In fact, the USA team playing tonight, so grab your popcorn and wings for that. But as spring training is underway and this classic in Houston, Texas, President Trump sharing an analogy between America's pastime and our military with cut number 11.
Back.
And as President Trump giving remarks to Republican members down there at Doral, we will bid you adieu at 5:45 Eastern, 2:45 on the West Coast. A joy to be with you at your go-to live desk rally network and the #1 source in all of America and worldwide for political events right here domestically, inside and outside of the Beltway. If you wish to opine, feedback at rsbn.tv. But thank you for joining us on the right side of history here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. For all of my colleagues, have a beautiful Monday evening. May God bless you and yours. I'm Robert McNeely signing out. We'll see you again tomorrow.